Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 142, which are two films. The first one is Raging Bull from 1980, directed by Martin Scorsese and starring, of course, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Kathy Moriarty. And we decided to pair that with the 1923 film, The Iron Claw. And that is directed by Sean Durkin and starring Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White. It is a fascinating pairing. Why did we pair these two films? Well, first of all, I wanted to do Raging Bull for a long time. It's a really good film, first of all, obviously. But it also happens to be one of the first films that my good friend Donna ever worked on. And that was a long time ago. So I was like, well, let's cover Raging Bull. It's a lot of stuff to do and we had to do it. We decided we needed to pair it with something and we didn't really quite know what to do. We're kind of browsing around and looking at things like, well, The Iron Claw, I heard it's a movie about wrestling, boxing, wrestling. We'll decide to do that. None of us really had seen it, no idea what it was about. And I gotta tell you, The Iron Claw was a fantastic film that we wouldn't have found unless we stumbled upon it. And really, you just think about what it takes to make a really great film. I mean, if you go back to 1980 in the late 70s and 80s, a great film was greatly recognized and became a classic, and people know it. Everyone knows Raging Bull for good reason. And then you look at something like The Iron Claw, sure it got made, sure it looks fantastic, great actors, great direction, great story, an important story, an emotional movie, and yet probably no one has seen it, and it's just going to be forgotten. And I'm really wondering what happened today in filmmaking that sort of enables these different things. Now, I really say these two are two great films. I mean, and one is clearly influenced by the other, completely by accident in terms of us picking this film, but you can definitely tell that The Iron Claw was influenced, at the very least, by the filmmaking of Raging Bull, and a really great film. So classic stuff and really good films, and really glad that we were able to cover them. So that's what I want to do. I do want to mention, in terms of us and Martini Giant in general, that yes, it has been a very long time since we've posted a podcast. We've had a lot going on, both professionally and personally, that have sort of delayed a bunch of things. And we really want to, I want to apologize for that personally, but also Martini Giant in general, we want to apologize for that. We are extremely busy. We are very busy with a production of a short that we've been talking about for a long time that is going to be coming out very soon. Very excited about it. I'll tell you this, it's called Ray Tracing for the Win, which is pretty funny. It is a comedy and it is a Western, and it's going to be coming out in September, and we can't wait for you guys to see that short, done at a very, very high level of production, which is super, super exciting for us. So that is one of the things I wanted to tell you about. But also, we are going to try to get back on schedule. So we're going to start releasing podcasts every 2 weeks as we've been doing in the past. And this is basically, we're going to try to get back to what we're normally doing, because now that those things are starting to go, be behind us, we're going to start to move forward into other things. So just to give you a sneak peek of what's going to be coming up in the coming weeks, in 2 weeks, we will be releasing our episode of Civil War, which is another great film we did, so we look forward to that. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to be covering two Jeff Bridges films, which are Winter Kills and Cutter's Way, which are very obscure films back from the early 80s as well. So late 70s, early 80s. So exciting for us to see those films and to talk about that. So yes, don't worry, we will be back on schedule. But don't forget, if you just want to follow us on YouTube and stuff, just go to youtube.com/@MartiniGiant, youtube.com/@MartiniGiant. You'll watch all these episodes. And even when they're going up live, we usually record them on Saturdays. You can follow us as a live episode as well on YouTube. And we're also available on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Martini_Giant, twitch.tv/Martini_Giant. All right. But for now, enjoy episode number 142, which is Raging Bull and The Iron Claw.
We've had a busy week.
What do you mean talking about had a busy week? It's Tuesday.
Oh shit. That's how busy it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a lot of, and this is, I'm gonna do a talk on Thursday for AI on the Lot. talking about virtual. I'm going to be sitting next to Ed Ulbrich
Oh, nice.
on a panel.
That's awesome. Excellent. Ed's always a charming and excellent man.
Yeah.
Distractingly handsome, but what are you going to do?
Distractingly handsome.
Yeah.
He has a little bit of a, I've realized something about Ed that all of a sudden clicked with me. Like, he's a part Sicilian.
Oh, interesting. There we go.
Yeah.
There
I think
we are.
that sort of is telling about, one, his handsomeness, and two, how he's focused on certain things.
And the Sicilians know how to get things done. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done indeed.
Hey, so a couple of things I wanted to try to tell you guys before I jump into this. I tried to use ChatGPT 4.0 on my phone.
How did it go?
They removed the voice part of it, which is like the biggest
That's
part.
the big thing. Yeah.
I use that.
No, are you on your app? Try to use the voice on your app.
Yeah.
Try using it now, seeing if it's there.
What did they do?
They took it off.
Something
Why?
caused some problems.
I think it's just too many people are hitting it. They don't have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How's it going?
Oh, I'm
there you
doing
go.
okay.
Is it 4.0?
Yeah.
Oh, so you still have it. Mine got disabled. I was looking online. A lot of people do it.
Yeah, but I pay for mine.
So do I.
Huh.
I have not tried this yet. How is it treating
Oh,
us?
no, it only works with Mac iOS.
I see.
No, it works on Android too, but they removed it. No, I was using it yesterday, and they took it off today.
What's the review?
Oh, I think
Well,
it's cool.
it's your Monroe bot, isn't it?
I think it was cool. I just started
It's
dipping
talking
into
to
it.
her. Like the fact that they sound like Scarlett Johansson
Yeah.
now has the emotional anxiety
Well, all
and
the-
happiness of
All the things, the weird thing is like if you see these, I have a lot of AI, YouTube's subscriptions, with different people talking, and everyone's wearing a red shirt, like her.
Oh, yeah.
Like from
That's
the poster.
funny. Yeah, right,
I'm like,
right,
why?
right.
What's the matter with? And I was like, oh, that's her,
Yeah.
because they're reviewing the announcement from a couple days ago.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But
She sounds just like
Yeah,
her,
like they didn't even try and hide it. Like that's the
well,
didn't
you
even
can
try
switch
it.
the voices.
yeah.
Yeah,
can-
but the fact that the default voice sounds like Scarlett Johansson gets all excited about
It's so
everything
great.
you're
It keeps
doing.
on calling you Joaquin Phoenix for some reason.
Yeah.
Not even sure why they do that, but still.
It's so Monrobot. It's hilarious to me. Like no one's going to leave their house. They're just going to talk to their digital girlfriends.
I can't, because like when I first saw the thing,
Right.
Obviously the chat was just like, oh, digital girlfriends. I was like, screw that. I'm going to have this thing run Dungeons and Dragons for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first thing.
It's interesting. I've been really testing it to see like how much better it is. And like it's gotten like its hallucinations used to be really bad, especially when you do something obscure like saltwater fly fishing.
Sure.
Right. And now it's like really good. Like I sent it a picture of this and like, sorry, I can see it, but this is a specific fly
Nice.
that I made. Focus.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, well, blurry fly. They seem like a fish would.
There it is. But it got it wrong the first one. I said, try again. It says, oh, you're right. It's an Avalon fly developed in Cuba. I think
Oh,
that's
look at
correct.
that. Wow, that's really,
I was like-
really crazy.
Yeah, it recognized it. It's like, oh, it's got the keel and it's got the beads on the bottom like an Avalon fly. I was like, yep.
Can you, no, I've not run this anywhere. Can you just run it off of the site on the computer? Or do you have
You
to run it?
can run it off a site.
Hmm.
The chat, the app is better,
App's better. Okay.
but you can run it off the site. But yeah,
I'll definitely try that side. Do you have to pay for it or is it free?
it is $20 a month. It's
$20 a
not
month.
cheap.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not prepared to invest in like AI, like to do all the AI things I want to be doing is quite
No, it's
expensive.
worse.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's like having cable. I'm just like,
Oh, it's way worse. Way
it's
worse.
so expensive.
It's
But-
way worse. And it's not, I don't think it's worth doing all of them.
No.
By a
Well,
long
the
shot.
problem is that I want a little piece of all of them. Like
The
90%
other
of
problem
everything
is
is useless.
Forget that you've subscribed to all these things.
Yes, exactly. It just chips away.
And
at
then
your
you
bank
have
account.
things that you like. Okay, I'll just put it this way: I have my Audibles.
Mhm.
I've gone months without buying a book, and I keep paying Audible.
Oh yeah, I finally had to cut that off. I was just like, I'm like 30 books behind on my Audible. I can't continue to
There's
just do
some
this.
things you could do. You can hook up. I use Open Router as well. And
Mhm.
Open Router hooks up to all of those.
Oh,
You just,
nice.
And you just pay, but I use Bitcoin to pay for it. So I'm like an old Bitcoin account.
Oh, okay.
And it pays for that. And I use that with Novel Crafter.
Right.
But it's pennies, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's Open Router's cool.
I'll have
Because
to
you can
check
get
that.
like Mistral, you get all these other things and mix and match when you're doing research and work.
Because the
So-
only way to really properly use AI right now is to mix and match. Like none of them really work perfectly at all
For
things.
natural language,
Right.
it's Claude. I
Yeah.
pay for Claude. Then for research and for work, I use GPT.
Right.
And then I use Mistral, Claude for writing, organizing, outlining, and GPT for research.
Yeah.
Through the OpenAI.
It's like like I feel like right now it's like when they used to bundle cable. Like you have to, or you're just like, I don't want fucking 8 ESPNs. I just want the one thing.
Did you see that whole article that's come out about that? There's a real. I put it on our Discord chat about why streaming is turning into cable again.
Oh, the Verge.
Yeah,
that was really
Yeah,
good.
you shared it with us. That was really
very
good.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because
But what was the most fascinating thing to me is how they basically like equated interest rates going up to quality of shows going down.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they tied everything like hedge fund guys, right? To
Yeah.
to the economy. So I mean, economy dictates everything, but they really, you know, the way they schedule things and do things now, it doesn't surprise me. But it's I thought that was a really good. You sent a podcast.
Yeah.
Or not a podcast, but a video.
A video.
Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good.
Yeah, that was very good. But yeah, like I really feel like because right now superhero movies are dead and we're back to cable. It's like going back to like 2016.
Yes, there is a difference though, as opposed to cable. There are still multiple channels that are competing, and in cable you only had one choice.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was like a designated price, and yet it was done.
Right.
Also, you can still watch anything you want at any point in time. In cable, it was just like,
oh, it's just
whatever.
Useless. Yeah.
But ads are back, and it's going to be hard not to get around them.
I don't mind ads if the service is free. I do mind ads when I'm already paying.
Well,
I'm
remember we were paying cable, and we still got ads.
Yeah, so
right?
I hate it. I hate this so much.
Everything, YouTube, everything that I watch, it's just ads at the worst time.
Yeah.
Like always. And they're 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes. So tip on YouTube, because I watch YouTube all the time. If you use the Brave browser, it automatically cuts out the ads for you without it.
I watch it on my
realizing
TV, but I should switch to the computer.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So Brave browser is actually really good. Cuts out all the ads.
Yep. Yeah.
I switched back to Chrome at one point, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I watched YouTube. I was like, nope, useless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
don't do that.
It's horrifying. It's horrifying landscape. But
Yeah.
at least movies are at least sort of back to normal now. They're almost back to normal.
They are, and we're going to talk about this in a second. Sorry, we're
Mhm.
going through news thing. I want to talk about a couple things with you guys before we jump into our two fabulous movies, Raging Bull and The Iron Claw.
Mhm.
Another thing I want to talk about, did you see a couple trailers came out that I want to discuss?
Megalopolis.
That's the second one.
Okay, there we go.
That's the better discussion. But real
Yes,
quick,
okay,
did you see
yeah.
the new trailer to the new Lord of the Rings power?
Oh, I can't
Rings of
do
Power?
it. I can't do it. I can't. I saw that it was out, and I was like, I can't even submit myself to this.
No,
It's
so
not
the
possible.
comment section is just tears it
ridiculous.
apart. And it was like, I can't believe they spent another fucking $1 billion on this bullshit.
Oh man, I mean,
Did
if
they
they
really
get
spend that much?
they've on the first
Yes.
season, yeah, it was $1 billion. It was $1 billion.
The second one, but probably.
And it looked. The first season looked great. Like it was spectacular
Sure.
looking, but the writing was
boring as fuck.
it was all the worst aspects of streaming writing. It was like times 10. I couldn't believe how much wheel spinning there was going on. Like you're watching
Mhm.
characters just wander around, have no conflict, nothing happening, hours and hours and hours. Utterly
Why
useless.
is that? is because they have a lot. They're trying to stretch it out for.
Well, because they're dealing with characters where you already know where their plot goes, so they can't really, they can't have too much of a character challenge without altering the character. Yeah. Right. And it's sort of like Star Wars has the same problem where you have it's become such an IP lock where, Darth Vader has to act like Darth Vader. You can't have him act like something else. Right. Because that breaks the sales model for all the toys and video games.
It's called the Vader effect.
The Vader effect. Right.
The Vada Vader.
Exactly. And because you do this, then you can't tell stories because stories are about how people change or fail to change, right? And when you just have a static experience of a non-personality, you don't have a story, and that's what almost all of the Lord of the Rings was. So all they could do is have characters that both end up liking each other, so you know what happens, but they get into a sort of a false conflict and scream at each other over nonsense stuff that works out for 3 hours. And I'm just this is
That's not how you pronounce bread.
You may as well be. Exactly.
It's bread, okay?
It's so empty.
You leave me alone. Yeah. I'll say bread any way I want.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a disaster.
Okay, now the other one I'll talk about is Megalopolis. What do you guys think about that?
I only saw the preview, the one. I didn't see the new one.
Okay, no, Eric's right. There was they released a sort of single scene. Which
teaser one on top of the
building,
the Chrysler building,
yeah. Right? And then they released the full trailer, or at least the short trailer.
A trailer,
right? And I have to say, I remain skeptical as to whether or not it's going to be any good, but I am very excited at what a crazy mess this is.
And it reminded me of the movie. I did like that movie. Talk about what you mentioned, Dan.
Oh yeah, because I was just people want this to be a new Apocalypse Now, but I think what this is going to be is a new One from the Heart, which is what makes me fucking psyched. Because One from the Heart is a gigantic, sprawling, crazily overproduced, beautiful, incoherent, wild mess, right? And it was amazing that it's just here's everything that I think about and feel about musicals and Frederick Forrest and Terry Garr and building things on stages and you just I think this is just touring your creative mind. There's not even a story here, right? But it's incredible to be in that space and that he pushed to get it made. So it's really worth saying.
I think it's going to be like Fantasia 2000. Remember that?
Maybe so. Exactly.
That was Walt Disney Jr.'s big thing, and it cost $200 million, which was an insane amount at that time, and just never did anything. It was like a disaster.
Yeah, I think that even if this movie is rapturous and beautiful, which it could very well be, I don't think it's going to be received well. Right? I think the people will not.
It's going to Cannes, right?
It's going to Cannes.
Yeah.
I think that it is the visuals are less.
It looks cool. I'm watching it as we talk.
Yeah,
it looks great. I turned the sound off. I would go see it. It's cool.
Yeah, I want to see this on an IMAX screen. Absolutely. And I think that I so much back the idea of selling wine for 40 years just to make the craziest incoherent science fiction movie you can. That's what everyone should be doing.
Yeah, he sold it for $500 million.
Winery. Go for it, man. This is
sold the whole winery or just part of it?
No, he paid for Megalopolis himself, which is $200 million plus.
120 before P&A.
Before P&A, and which is just the proper way to, if you make the movie that you can afford, and if you can afford $200 million, do that and make the movie you want to make. And whether or not it's something people want to see, that's their business. I endorse what he is doing, even if it's not something that clicks with me. I was really excited by what I was seeing. I was like, this is just wild. I don't know what it is, but it looks wild.
You don't know what it is, but it's wild.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's basically it. I think it looks cool. I just saw it for the first time, and I'm like, I'll watch it. Yeah, but absolutely. It is One from the Heart.
It's One from the Heart. Exactly.
Totally.
Everyone should see One from the Heart. Whether you love it or not, you should absolutely see it. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I would totally see that film. I don't know if I'd like it or not, but I'll see it.
Yeah.
I do want to say, you know how we have been saying so many times we watch films, right? We'll watch things like 5 Easy Pieces or whatever, and we'll say they don't make them like this anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like we say
For
this
sure.
all the time.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Iron Claw.
Yep.
I think they are making it again.
I loved Iron Claw.
Iron Claw was great. I really,
Zac Efron
I
is
really
amazing.
enjoyed Iron Claw. I was surprised.
He's
It
so
was
good.
so good. And then I thought we kind of jokingly decided to pair it with Raging Bull, but it's like the almost obvious pair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really
No,
good.
Like the
It's
opening
really good.
scene is the same.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's a really like, and the thing is, like, it also has like, it's a little bit of a, like, it's obviously inspired by the same kinds of things that Goodfellas, like, it's a Goodfellas-ish kind of story in terms of like big family threads leading together, right?
Sure.
But it also
Even
has
shot that way.
yeah, well,
And they
like, but
go
it
into
also,
the arena in the beginning, and one guy's cooler, and he walks away. I
Yeah.
was like to Nancy, my wife, I was like, "That's Coppola. That's Scorsese.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the Coppa shot. I mean,
yeah,
it's totally
it's a Copa shot, but it's also got a little Terrence Malick to it. It's got like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a weird, like it's. I think it's a very mainstream movie, like in a very enjoyable way, and it's also a slightly arty, weird movie that I was like, right on.
I
This
can't
is really
believe how
interesting.
big he got too.
Oh,
Zac
he's
Efron.
insane. He's insane in this
It's
thing. Yeah.
crazy.
But like, I think that the top line for me on Iron Claw is somebody please give Holt McElhaney some awards so he gets more work, because he plays the dad and he's one of my
He's so
favorite
good.
fucking character actors going. Like I thought Zac
Which
Efron's
reminds me
terrific.
of John. He was in a ton of things, but he was in Tommy Boy as the father. John McVeigh.
oh
you know,
yeah, he's great. Yeah.
he
yeah.
passed away like a few years ago, but
Yeah.
he was in everything, and he was in Tommy Boy as well as the father.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he
Brian
was,
Dennehy.
Brian
Dennehy.
Dennehy.
Yeah.
He reminds me of. He has a little Dennehy.
Absolutely. I got to see Dennehy on stage doing Death of a Salesman.
Oh wow.
And it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my whole life. And yeah, you're right. He has exactly the same, like, just
he's a
incredible
Dennehy.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally him.
Yeah. And very, like, this bit, just brutish, blocky, kind of crazy force to him. With like, you can see there's a strong intellect and his brain's always working. But at the same time, like, he's just this fucking, like, massive meat machine coming at you, and it's really amazing to see. I love that guy. Yeah, I mean, like, Brian Dennehy was a huge dude, and
was
Holt
great.
McElhaney is a huge dude. Like, he's a big, blocky, crew cut guy, and they have undeniable force to them. I really, really enjoy.
So which the way that we came about this, there's several things. That's why we were just looking at things that came out recently, and it was like, oh, I want to see Iron Claw. So none of us had seen it, right, before this.
Yeah.
So
No.
this is new to all of us. So this is probably why we're talking about it so readily.
Mm-hmm.
And then we didn't know what to pair it with, and we suggested Raging Bull because it just sounded funny, like a Raging Bull and Iron Claw sounds like
It's a great pairing.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which I think is also funny. But also want to note that it was cool to see Raging Bull because he saw Donna's credit on there as well.
Oh yeah, right.
And
Yeah, it's so
she
good.
is production office coordinator.
Yeah.
That was her first film.
That's
To
insane.
give people context on that, Donna is a friend of Martini Giant.
Mhm.
She has also helped a lot with sort of kicking off some of the production we've done on the film the short we've been working on. And so she's been really sort of helping out on a lot of that. So it was funny. It was like, oh, Raging Bull. Yeah, we should do that. It was Donna's first film. So it was kind of nice to have that in context. And boy, does she have some Marty stories.
Yeah.
Marty and Bobby stories during that production. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. She's an incredible character, and she has like such a deep well of production history that just like there's no way to sit down and talk with Donna Smith and not come away with like it's like reading one of Tarantino's cinema speculation books where you're like, oh, what a great story about so and so. Like that's every time I've talked with Donna.
She brings up all the time. So like I'll say like something about fishing, and she goes, "Oh, well, it reminds me of another story, right?" And she's like, "Oh, when I was working on Cape Fear, and Bobby went off with the grips to go sports fishing for a week, and we had to freaking reschedule everything because he just didn't show up on set."
Yeah, yeah. It's like, come on.
and I was like, "Really?" And then I was talking about fly fishing. He goes, "I learned how to fly fish too, Chris." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah." Yeah, me and Meryl Streep, we were in Montana. We decided to learn how to fly fish, and so we learned. Nuts. And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So yeah, she's always like, everything is like, "Oh yeah, I got a story about that." And you're like, "Oh, we were talking about, who are we talking about? What's his name?
Richard Glasgow?
No. Who plays the bad guy on Waterworld? She was mentioning
Dennis Hopper. Yeah,
Dennis Hopper. It's like, we were talking about Dennis Hopper. He goes, "Oh yeah, I work with Dennis on Waterworld."
That's like, insane, man. It's so good. But yeah, just to celebrate that some more, like her credits include The Terminator, Back to the Future, Lethal Weapon, Twister, Born on the 4th of July, friggin' Dark Man, amazing. Like even just like it's Cape Fear. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah, she's oh my God, Raising Cain. I love Raising Cain. That's a crazy movie. Yeah, Lorenzo's Oil.
Very few people in Hollywood that she hasn't sort of been involved with.
Yeah,
she was, but keep in mind, she was head of production and post production at Universal. So anything going through Universal was.
It's just insane. Her credits list. It's just shocking. It's just shocking.
Yeah.
But she's a blast, and so this is like seeing Raging Bull. Like I think that Raging Bull. I mean. To be fair, we do have to say, like, for anyone who hasn't seen Raging Bull, like, this is when people say one of the great movies ever made, this is so shockingly one of the great movies ever made. It's sort of upset. You're just like, Jesus Christ, from the get-go, that movie's like beautiful. Just slapping you around. It's so incredible.
Absolutely. Right. And so we need to talk about it first to put Iron, because I think Iron Claw would not exist without the Raging Bull.
No chance. Yeah. No chance.
Foundation, right? Yeah. So we talk about Raging Bull first, and then we get to Iron Claw. But I'm saying I'm very excited to talk about Iron Claw.
Absolutely.
But I want to make sure we have context to it with Raging Bull, because I was so happy that Iron Claw got made, right? And I think that that's the thing that we gotta put together. But anyway, Raging Bull, beautiful film, shot in black and white in 1980, right?
79.
Yeah, shot in 79, released,
came out in 80.
Yeah.
They shot it in black and white because they wanted to differentiate it from the other boxing films that were coming out.
Such as Rocky, which dominated
the
world. They also wanted to do it because they would save on really true period colors and stuff. Like
right. Yeah, makes sense.
Gloves
makes sense.
Yeah, so.
And blood. And the blood, too.
That makes sense. See, that makes a lot, because I know in Taxi Driver, they had to tune the blood down. They had to color time the blood to be more brown.
Pretty no more.
Yeah, pretty no more. But so which is always bizarre in Taxi Driver, because the blood in Taxi Driver is nastier because it's brown. And just now it looks like filthy. Like, it's just disgusting.
Yeah. So there was a trick that, she doesn't do it anymore, but back in the day, Karen used to work on MPAA fixes for trailers, right? Because when you have a green band trailer, they've got to make it so that essentially the trailer you're watching is rated G,
right?
Yeah,
to make it approved for all audiences, right? So, but it's not, because it's obviously not, right? So in this red band, it's because they used a couple of F words or whatever, right? But for green band, they got to do it. So blood has to be fixed. So if you have money, you actually paint out the blood. If you don't, you do what's called blood to mud, which is you just make it brown.
Right. Blood to mud, which is a weird choice, because to me, it just looks...
It looks grosser.
It looks grosser. It just looks grosser, especially in Taxi Driver, which looks like... It just looks like a filth. It looks like a fucking latrine in the end of the movie. Like, it's absolutely disgusting. But yeah, so in black and white for Raging Bull, there's a lot of blood in Raging Bull. And if that had all been bright red, like, that would have been easy. Like, the MPA at that time would have been like X, like they almost gave what do you call it, Casino many years later, an NC-17 because
of the blowjob scene.
Because of the eye popping scene was the thing they had to fuck with. Yeah, they put the guy's head in the vice. And Scorsese, you make me pop your eye out of your fucking head. But Scorsese filmed
They
excessive
did it
gore.
in the cooler. They
They
made
did-
it an NC-17 because there was pubic hair.
That's
involved.
it. That's too much. People don't know what that is. It's like no one's seen that before.
Great movie to see, by the way. Can't see it anywhere except now it's free on YouTube, I believe, or free available on Vimeo or one of those things.
Yeah.
This movie is not yet rated.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been removed from all the platforms because it is basically an anti-MPAA film.
Yeah.
Really?
But if you've never seen it, look it up.
That
This
Chris
movie is
Rock?
not yet rated. Huh?
No,
Chris Rock?
it's a documentary just interviewing everybody
the MPAA.
about the MPAA. Right.
Yeah.
And there was a private investigator that went in and did a lot of research that they hired to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that private investigator is the one that put the movie up.
Yeah, it's really good. It's
very disturbing when you realize that who is in the MPAA, what power they have, and they're highly, highly political and religiously based, even though they're not supposed to.
And
be.
this is the thing: is like when that came out. I mean, it still is very religiously based. It's really revealing. Like people used to be, when that movie came out, everyone, liberals, myself included, were like, yo, those goddamn conservatives always trying to control art and whatnot. And now it's coming from both sides. Like everyone needs to control, like we need to get in there. And
conservatives are worse.
The
liberals are worse.
Yeah, like everybody's conservative now. Like nobody wants, everyone's like trying to keep all this shit out of movies, sex scenes, everything. Just like get it out as fast as you can because people can't be trusted. They'll go crazy. Mm-hmm. And like you see a movie like this and you're just like when you see it from the outside, it's you can see that it's a literally insane mode of thought. Like these random people pulled from the Midwest judging the artfulness and purpose of a film and then changing what artists are doing based on religious ideas or what bizarre shit flows through their head, and they're just like, we can't possibly show that. Like we can't we can't show pubic hair without giving it NC-17, as if everyone on Earth does not see it every day of their lives.
I should watch that film.
It's really wild. So yeah, that's with something like Raging Bull. Raging Bull is the brilliance and the violence of that movie, because it's still like the best boxing stuff I've ever seen.
It's beautiful.
It's both stunningly gorgeous and upsetting. It's like the edit in particular, Velma Schoonmaker's edit is so assaulting. Like the sound design and the cut in those scenes is how to do violence. Like it's just fucking shocking. And because people are just being beaten to hamburger in this thing, and it's gorgeous, and you just can't ask for better. It's one of the greatest things ever shot. Is Raging Bull. It's phenomenal to see. I haven't seen it in maybe 2 years, and I was still knocked out.
Yeah, it's been a while. Got great lines.
Oh yeah, yep.
Good one-liners.
Yep.
It does feel almost like a prequel to Goodfellas.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, it's got like a good
because the characters,
it's got Pesci, it's got fucking De Niro, it's got Billy Batts, it's got De Niro hates the guy who plays Billy Batts, who's killed at the bar in Goodfellas. They have another sort of like tete-a-tete in this thing. You're just like, this is the setup for that. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, it goes to he likes to use unknowns and stick with them.
Mm-hmm.
Scorsese. So he did, and at that time, all those guys didn't. Even what's his name, Pesci.
Yeah,
he gave up acting, and he brought along Kathy Moriarty, who didn't act, and she was 18.
Yeah, she's terrific in this thing too. Man, oh man, and Scorsese knows how to shoot her, so she's just like Hollywood icon in this picture.
The screenshots, the fence.
Yeah.
Touch.
Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, so
awesome.
I always, and Scorsese is obviously one of the greats. But when I saw his latest one, and everyone's just like, "Oh my God, Killers of the Flower Moon!"
That is just such a brilliant movie.
And the thing is, like, this thing, like you get like that movie.
Was it Flower Moon, Eric? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I haven't seen it because everyone says it sucks, and the trailer looks bad. So I'm like, I don't want to get depressed because he's an icon in my mind. It might
He is,
ruin
it's like I'm now, and this is coming from the point of view of someone who I really liked. What's the ultra slow one? The Irishman. Like the Irishman is
I like
super.
The Irishman.
Yeah, it's super slow, but I really like that movie. Right, but this thing was like, there is a great movie in Killers of the Flower Moon, and it is 90 minutes long.
Yeah.
And when I just watched Raging Bull again, I was like, if these guys were operating with the intensity, him and Schoonmaker were operating with the intensity that they were in 1980, then Killers of the Flower Moon would be this kind of masterpiece.
So you're saying if they went back to using a whole lot of cocaine, they would have been.
I'm gonna just take a nibble.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack, right?
Well, this is what is sort of the history of Raging Bull, right? Is he had a heart attack when he was making whatever the previous movie was.
New York, New York.
New York, New York. That's another one, like the Coppola movie, right? But like that's a really bizarre, hard to love movie. It's really good. But he was a massive cokehead, and he almost died. He went to the hospital, and he was going to give up on filmmaking. And De Niro was like pushing him to make Raging Bull for years, and finally convinced him, like, you are Jake LaMotta. Like, this is about you and your artistic experience. Like, you have this thing you have to do, and it's totally uncontrollable. And so, like, you look at how LaMotta is this flailing, hyper, crazy, violent freak, and then he sees the beauty and specifically old school cinematic wonder of Moriarty, just as an image. Like, that's where Scorsese's at. He's like, I am a crazy thug of a person, and then I want this beautiful object of film, right? And that's what's driving him his whole life. Like, there's this art that he wants to achieve, and his energy is crazy and all wrong, at least at that time. That's why he was super coked up, etc. And I think that, like, more than Taxi Driver, Raging Bull is the big artistic breakthrough for him. Like, when he was finally...
I think so. I think Taxi Driver is more famous because it was more shocking.
Yeah, and Taxi Driver is one of my favorite movies. That's a great film. Absolutely great film. But, like, just as a piece of work, like, it's really hard to make a better movie and a more inventive movie than Raging Bull. Like, that redefined that entire form.
Yeah. I think it just, well, first of all, you're right. It was a comeback. He thought he was never going to make a film again.
Right.
You know, here he is, years later, making Killers of the Flower Moon.
It's still, which I appreciate, man. I like, if you know, you're 80 years old and you're still hitting it hardcore like that. That's amazing to me. Must be. You know.
I mean, come on. How old is he? He's got to be, right?
I mean, I think that, you know, you got, because all these guys, you got Michael Mann and Scorsese and who else? All these, you know, 70 to Ridley Scott. You know, Ridley Scott's like fucking
Roger Corman.
Cheers to him.
Yeah.
Cheers
I don't know if I appreciate that all these guys are still making movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they are all the guys that came out of the revolution of the 70s. But at the same time, I think we need the new.
Well, it's embarrassing to me that Ridley Scott is making more daring movies than almost anybody else, any young person today. Like, that shouldn't be the case. You know, it shouldn't be the case that
he can get the money fast. Well,
but then nobody is trying, like young, like, there's no one making The Duelists right now. There's no, like, 23-year-old guy making The Duelists, you know, and
well, okay, but I think if I can, no studio is going to say no, but you know, no one's saying make The Duelists. Very few, and if you are, it seems like they're only giving it to, like, the Gaspar Noirs or people like that, really arty, cool, or that's it.
Well, I think you're right. Like, before I sound like I'm just picking out, young people aren't doing anything. Like, it's the entire system right now is not.
I think there's a lot of artists, pardon me, that would do it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly right.
They're just not given an opportunity because that's my sense. I thought this was, you know, Iron Claw was a great movie. The guy wrote it and directed it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good filmmaker. It was a really great film.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like he's, you know, he could be like a Cimino, who knows? But
yeah, right.
It's just it's just, I'm sure he's beating his head against, who wants to see a wrestler? I don't want to see a wrestler.
Exactly.
I'm sure the gatekeepers are kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way there's not young filmmakers out there who want to get like their new shit, crazy shit made. But the system that we have right now is clearly choking them off, right? Like it is like when the only people that can make Megalopolis, like the only way to make Megalopolis is to go and have a winery
sell your
for
vineyard
fucking 40
for
years.
500 million.
Yeah.
And then take 120 of that and put it into production.
Right. And now
that's our film school, guys.
Yeah.
First of all, Chris is going to go over wine.
Right.
Then I'm going to go over harvesting the wine. And then we'll talk about selling the vineyard so you can make your film.
So hopefully things are changing. Like I think this is remnants.
That would be a great Udemy course.
Hey,
it's
man.
just how to make your movie by selling your vineyard.
Sell your vineyard, yes.
First thing, buy a vineyard and wait 40 years.
Yeah,
that's
chapter 1 through 3.
That's the old Steve Martin bit of how do you become a millionaire? And he goes, first, get $1 million. Second. But I think what we're talking about really, like, it has mostly to do with the fact that for the past 20 years now, the studio has been churning out a certain kind of movie very comfortably. They transported that to TV very comfortably, and now suddenly that's all fallen apart. So hopefully you'll see some breakout young new voices coming out of the fact that there's no more superhero movies to make.
Well, yeah, and we'll bring it up in a second. But I mean, it's like Iron Claw was amazing, but how many people have heard of it? How many people have seen it? Right?
I have to say, I'm going to say this, and I'm going on the limb on saying this. I really liked Iron Claw, but I remember seeing the trailer, and it didn't wow me as much as the film did.
It looked like it was playing towards a TV market.
It looked like that one with Jack Black, where he plays the wrestler with the.
Oh, Lucha Libre?
Nacho Libre. Yeah.
It just had it just, when you watch it with the sound off, I was like, is that a kind of a,
is this funny?
I didn't take it seriously. And maybe the trailers didn't help me take it seriously.
Right.
Oh my God. I was crying so much on that film.
It's
so
great.
Incredible.
Iron Claw.
Yeah. It's a tough one to get the balance on too.
I actually, I've seen Raging Bull, so maybe that was the thing, but I saw Raging Bull and I was like, that's great, and I've seen it, and it was cool to see that. But then when I saw Iron Claw, I was so surprised, and so I was like, that was a better experience for me.
Yes, it was.
It's absolutely gripping.
Than Raging Bull.
100%. Like, I think that, it's clear that Raging Bull is this very intense work of art,
Yes.
And I would say Iron Claw is much more of it's a very mainstream, very emotionally accessible bit of work. But
there's so many things I can discuss about that in terms of
but it's extremely well done and very, very effective. And so
a similarity between the two is that De Niro worked out, became extreme, that he could have become a fighter. Plus he gained 60 pounds for the end sequence.
Yeah.
Zac Efron
was only beaten by Vincent D'Onofrio in Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then Zac Efron goes,
Jesus Christ,
takes enough steroids.
He is racked in this movie. It's disturbing.
Dude, I was like, his jaw was affected. Like he was taking that HGH stuff or whatever it is, the steroids. Yeah. It was crazy. I was like,
he looks insane.
This guy's like,
he looks insane. He looks like a horse. He looks like someone shaved a horse and then they face swapped Zac Efron.
Yeah.
And not just a horse. We're talking like a full Clydesdale.
Yeah. It's really, really fucking crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, now, because the thing is, something like Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, right? That, you're not going in there to be emotionally affected by how much you deeply care about the characters. It's a very intellectual, artistic experience.
It is at the same time is showcasing what a despicable character he is.
Yeah, you're having empathy for this incredibly angry, broken fuck up. It's a very,
I don't know. I have more empathy for his brother, right?
Oh yeah, well, Joe Pesci. I mean, I like Joe Pesci, as a person. Right. I don't like Jake LaMotta. The thing is, to clarify, I have no sympathy for Jake LaMotta. I have sympathy for Joe Pesci, meaning that I like Joe Pesci and I don't want him to be going through this stuff, and I understand that dealing with someone like this is a fucking pain in the ass. But that's not like, I don't have empathy for Joe Pesci because it doesn't take any empathy. I like Joe Pesci. What takes empathy is, I think that LaMotta is a fucking brute and a horrible person. And for me to care for him at all is empathy. Right? Like that's where I'm like, I don't understand this person, but I understand his feeling. That's empathy. Like, and sympathy is like, of course I fucking feel bad for Joe Pesci. I like Joe Pesci. But like when you watch someone like Jake LaMotta, who you would not want to know in real life, yet you can see you understand the kind of pain that he's in any way. That's what empathy really is.
Well,
like
I think the classic aspect of Raging Bull is the opening is a gorgeous film, and it's Pietro Mascagni's from Cavaliere Rusticano.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which used to be it's an operetta that used to be in front or behind of Pagliacci. So if you go to the opera, you'd see Cavaliere Rusticana and Pagliacci, or vice versa. To me, it is an opera, and they say it with the music in the beginning. Like, this is a moral tale in the classic Italian tradition.
Right.
And it's not a complete opera. It's one of these small little vignette operas that hit you hard with emotion and you reflect on life.
Yep.
You know who arranged the music, Eric?
His father.
No. It was Roy Robinson.
Okay.
So, yeah, because, obviously he's very close.
Pietro Mascagni, it's an old operetta. But the music for it is unbelievable, at least in the beginning.
No, it's incredible. Incredible. Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah, like I think that like what's interesting to compare this to is like Goodfellas is a highly entertaining movie, right? Whereas Raging Bull is not. Raging Bull is not there to entertain you. Right? Raging Bull is there to make you consider.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't feel good watching Raging Bull.
This is Raging
You don't feel
Bull.
good watching Taxi Driver either.
Right. These are things to make, like, I know I'm like a broken record with this stuff, but like the reason to watch something like Raging Bull or Taxi Driver isn't because you're going to sympathize with Travis Bickle or whoever. It's because in that you empathize with them, right? They are exaggerated forms of your own flaws. Yeah. Like it's a way for you to think about. Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's an operetta. It's a way for you to think about like your own flaws and the ways in which, in very, very minor ways, you are similar to Jake LaMotta. Like where you go like, I fucked it up exactly like this. Right. Now Jake LaMotta is times 1,000. Right. But you go, that is what it, and so like you see, like you watch this stuff and you go, I have treated someone in my life as poorly as Jake LaMotta treats Kathy Moriarty, right? And so now you get a perspective on the suffering that you may have caused someone. That's the point of something like this. Like it's to understand yourself better. It's not fun, like, but that's what art is for, right? This is like, it's an unpleasant experience, but it's a deeply moral, heartfelt experience. And so like, you're not going to be like, well, you watch something like Iron Claw, like that's about celebrating things you believe in, right?
It's family.
Yeah. It's like this is stuff I agree with, and people that I don't want to have suffer. I understand this. Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, I think to some extent there is definitely a villain in this film. In Iron Claw, but I'm talking about Zac Efron. Like Zac Efron is someone that I admire. 100%. Zac Efron in that movie. Yeah.
Right.
But there's villains in this. Let's get a little context. The what's it called?
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. Thank you, Eric. Raging Bull is based on a true story of Jake LaMotta, who is a real boxer that was popular, that was around in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Yeah. And he was the advisor on the movie.
Yeah.
So
points to him for being portrayed so horribly.
Yes, and he also saw the movie, and then went to his wife Tracy. What's her name? Yeah.
Yeah.
And said,
Vicky.
"Oh my!"
Nikki.
He was crying. Vicky
Yeah.
was crying. It's like I couldn't have been. Was I really that horrible? And she is worse.
Yeah, you're worse. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you know
Yeah.
while I was scouring through these, just kind of,
The food you're eating? What?
you can hear it. Well, I'm hungry, dude. Sorry.
I know.
So it said John Turturro's in this movie.
Briefly, yeah. That's funny. I was like, what?
Yeah.
There'd be a baby. But he's still there.
And the guy who plays Coach in Cheers.
Yeah. It's
That's
good to see
right.
him. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. And he died during the making of Cheers.
Yep. Yeah. I always liked that guy. He's a very good actor. But it's weird to see him outside of Cheers. Like it was baked.
Yeah,
into
because
my
he's
head.
always plays the dumb
Yeah.
guy and
Hey,
the
what's
bartender.
that guy? Hey,
But the film so it's based on a real boxer, and it starts off goes through his history. He is from the Bronx, from the neighborhood, right? From the neighborhood. So very much has that Scorsese mobster Italian feeling to it, right? He's a boxer. He's a brute. He's a middleweight champion.
It's a contender.
Could have been a contender.
Which is instead of a bum, which is what I am.
That's entertainment.
That's entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts off with him. He was married to someone else at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he treats his wife like crap.
Oh, it's hideous. And like you can't underscore enough like how fucking great De Niro is in this movie. Like it's insane.
Defeats the purpose.
Oh, it defeats its own purpose. It defeats its own purpose. So he's talking about the steak. You can't cook that steak too long.
It's a steak.
It defeats its own purpose.
It's chop. It's a briquette.
It's a fucking. What are you doing? Oh my god!
You gotta also
Oh my
realize that like it almost feels like every other De Niro character is based on this guy.
Yeah, this is
because then you're like, oh, he's almost like a parody of himself. No, this is the original.
This is it, man. Because he is terrific in Taxi Driver, 100%.
Yeah,
like
different character,
but this is his Daniel Day-Lewis's Daniel Plainview. Like this is the one where you're just like, okay, this is the one you should be remembered for. Like this is so completely iconic and so truthful and so realistic, and he's tracking so many of the smallest little, like when he is like treating his wife horribly, like they're gonna like starting arguments for no reason, and Joe Pesci is just standing there like trying to just wait it out. Like he's like just like, I have to fucking sit through this while you argue with your wife and blah 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 blah. And then he's like, this argument spills over between him and his wife, and then someone out the window is just like, would you shut up in there? And he starts arguing with the guy out the window. And it's like all this anger is just spilling out everywhere all the time. And then he sits down with Joe Pesci and like everybody else is still mad. Like his wife is still mad, all this stuff. And
Pesci is trying to just like, can we move on?
Can we just fucking move on from this? And then suddenly you see that De Niro's like, he's like, she's complaining from the next room. And he looks at Pesci like, can you believe she's so fucking pissy? Like you're just like, how did you shift gears like this? What happened? But that he pulls these.
But it still wasn't enough. So he asks Pesci to
start hitting him. Yeah. And it's
hit me. Come on, hit me. I can take it.
To track him, like to emotionally track a character like that.
And he really did hit him, by the way.
But that's Schrader.
Many times in the film.
A lot of those really good scenes were Paul Schrader doing that.
It's top of their game. But like this is the core of the movie, right? Is like it's mostly set in the 40s, like 40s into the 50s, right? And you are watching this guy who has absolutely no control over his emotions at all. Like none.
Right.
Like and so you like and he's bouncing back and forth between like rage and lust and caring and melancholy and jealousy, and it's just like he's like he can't. It's just like someone's just fucking with his equalizer instantaneously. He has to turn into a different person every single scene, And for De Niro to pull that off is like there's almost I can barely think of any other performance like this that it makes any sense at all is insane.
Yeah. It's pretty great. And it is basically his story of him trying to win the championship.
Right.
Right. Of him trying to fight. And he's like, I want to be heavyweight champion, but he can never be heavyweight because it's not big enough, right?
It's the wrong weight class.
Wrong weight class.
He's because he's middleweight.
Also, that why is just the same thing in Iron Claw. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
What's the real point of winning these titles?
Well, there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And with Pesci and with everybody else is just trying to lead a steady life. Kathy Moriarty, everyone just wants stability, right? But you can't have this fucking loose literal. I mean, just
loose cannon.
Yeah, he's loose cannon like this. He is a raging bull. You just can't fucking have this in your life. Is what the movie. It's just this guy has no control over himself, and to have him in your life just destroys everything. There's just nothing you can do about it, and it gives you enough perspective on him that you go, I feel bad for everyone around him, and I feel bad for the person that's trapped inside that fucking mess of a mind, that emotional fucking car crash that's going on from 100% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was a good fighter.
Jesus Christ.
Well, it's so his brother is played by Joe Pesci, and his brother basically just takes complete care of him, trains him, does everything with him, takes care of him, helps him, and he's the only one that does it without
his family.
Yeah,
you don't question.
I don't know. You don't really see anyone else in his family doing anything for him. His mother's
apparently
not around,
they cut out the parents.
Yeah.
In the script, Schrader, because there's just too much layering. But
Pesci
it's a family
represents
obligation. Yeah,
Pesci represents family.
It's a family obligation, and he does it, and you get that sense when even at the very end of the movie where he's just like, "Come on, give me a hug." He's like, "Yeah, whatever." Most guys, if that was somebody you'd worked with or anything, like, get out of here, leave me alone. He's like, whatever,
fuck off
whatever.
Forever, right.
It's like he still has that family bond, which he doesn't forgive him, but he goes through the motions with that whole family stuff. And that could go back to even the other movie where it's just like, are you willing to stop this when your brother's throwing up blood? No, I just, no.
Yeah, what's it about? What are we doing this for? Right? Yeah, absolutely. And so and the movie brilliantly is it starts off with he's already it's the late 50s. He is super fat. He's a mess. He's doing
it doesn't even look like the same person.
It doesn't look like the same person at all. He's doing stand-up comedy bits at he runs a restaurant. He does he MCs at this fucking restaurant doing comedy.
Yeah.
And it's it's just he's quoting Shakespeare and fucking up and it's just you can't even believe it's De Niro. And then and it comes up with a date credit and it says Jake LaMotta 1957, right? He's blah 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 blah, and then it instantly cuts to De Niro 70 pounds lighter, in perfect shape, in the ring, in the same basic position in the frame, and it says Jake LaMotta 1941. And you're there is no way that's the same guy.
Right. But they basically tell you, this is the journey you're about to go through. You figure out how you go from A to B. Well, let's start with B and go back to A, and then we'll figure out what the journey is.
Exactly. This is the animal in the core of the person, of the fat guy. Here's and essentially, I was thinking when I was watching it this time.
It wasn't him in a fat suit. He literally just had
and it's called carbonara.
Yes, for a reason.
Oh, that's one way to.
He went to Italy and ate pasta.
It does not stop.
Lunch and dinner, carbonara and stuff like that.
Man,
that would do it to you, man.
It changes his face, his whole face. Aside from they add a fake nose on, but his face is so wide, you would never recognize him as De Niro. It's really wild. But
he had breathing problems.
Oh God, I can't imagine. I can't imagine, I suppose. But to do that in such a short period of time is really, really shocking. And that's how much he's committed to to the role and pulling it off. And I think like not for awards purposes or for acting purposes, but because this is how much he cared about Scorsese. Like he's like, I want to do this movie with you. These guys were at that time, they've said that like they were brothers. Like, I want to do this with you. This is really important that we make this movie together. And I think that De Niro loved him so much that he committed, unlike he ever committed to a movie before or after in Raging Bull.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's at the peak of method acting stuff.
And
right?
method acting for real method acting, not the bullshit that people do today for the pats on the back.
Yeah, no. He really got hit in the face. He really got put on all that weight. He did all that stuff, right? So there was a hilarious piece.
Brando crap.
Well, it's like because method acting gets a bad rap now because of people like Jared Leto, right? Jared Leto, like quote method acts.
It's Leto or Leto? It's Leto.
Leto, I think. Now, I think that Leto's actually a pretty good actor.
Jared Lolito.
Right. But like when I started hearing the shtick about it, Suicide Squad, how he was acting like the Joker to everybody off set, I'm just like, that's not what method acting is, you bozo. That's just being a dick. Like
only the Joker eats M&Ms at the craft service table.
It's like treating other people like douchebags is not an option for a film. Right. But you know, for De Niro to commit to what he committed to,
like Myers being fat bastard the whole time he was fat bastard.
Right. I mean, it's like, yeah, exactly. I mean, when you hear about Daniel Day-Lewis, like, you know, he was doing the Daniel Plainview accent the whole time when they were shooting There Will Be Blood. It's because he doesn't want to lose the performance. He's not treating people like a fucking jerk. Like,
he's just using that accent.
He's just continuing to be in there so he doesn't deliver an inconsistent performance. Like, that's just being responsible. But I also can't imagine like being on set with, you know, like hanging out with Daniel Day-Lewis at the crafty table and having him act like Daniel Plainview when he's just talking about it, just like, isn't this salmon delicious? You're just like, you okay, man? Sorry, I have to be like this. Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. What was I saying? Okay, so obviously we go through his history. He meets Kathy Morietti, who is very young, very beautiful, with a deep voice. She always had a deep voice. And she's supposed to play 15-year-old, but she's like 18. She was 18 when she met us, right?
Yeah. But
she's girl from the neighborhood. You know, girl from the neighborhood. She's by the pool. And he's just fascinated with her. Takes her to his dad's apartment that he bought his dad so that he can have sex with her in his dad's apartment. Kind of creepy.
It's fucking nasty. It's nasty. Yeah. Plus she's like, what, 16? You know?
She said 15 in the movie,
15, but, whatever it is. Yeah, it's just like, what the fuck, dude? It's like, it's so, yeah, it's so.
I don't know if you guys read it, but like, the studios didn't want her because she was Pesci recommended, and they're like, who the fuck is this girl? But she looks so much like the real Vicky when she was that age.
Oh, wow.
That they're like, yeah, okay, let's just do it. We trust you. Apparently it's like, it was Meryl-like. So it's really strange, which I never knew until I knew that she was young and the Pesci connection, but I didn't realize she looked that much like.
Well, and they do a great trick, because this is something Kubrick does with in Lolita, right? Which is a fucking hilarious movie. But he cast Sue Lyon, right? And Sue Lyon was actually 13 when they filmed Lolita, which is the age that Lolita is in the story, which is why it's nasty, right? But they make her look in the movie so Hollywood glamorized and grown up looking that for the first half of Lolita, like you're just like, you're assuming that they got like a 23-year-old to play a 13-year-old, right? Mm. And you're seeing her the way that James Mason is seeing her, which is like, oh, well, you know, it's okay for me to, you know, watch this pedophilia story because obviously that actor is 23. And then you find out that she's actually 13 and you feel like a fucking gross jerk, right? With Kathy Moriarty, she's 18. but they make her look like she's 33. Like they make her look like, great.
Oh, she's very put together.
Yeah.
But that was the 1940s, right? So there's a little bit of that too.
Well, but the way they photograph her is like unlike anything else in the film, which is nasty and very realistic. When they put the lens on her, it's lavish Grace Kelly photography, slow motion.
Absolutely.
And they really sell you her from De Niro's point of view, which is excellently upsetting and manipulative filmmaking. I think that's terrific.
Yeah, they do the same thing with the girls at the bar who say they're 21 and they're
right, exactly,
clearly not.
Yeah, and it's just you can't watch this movie without feeling a little nasty, which is his whole
he's
intent.
a gross person.
It's fucking gross. The experience is gross, and it's to me that's terrific. So the movie's not gonna be for everybody, but that making me like movies that make me feel like I should stop watching this movie, but I keep watching. That's good filmmaking.
I mean, I'm not going to dismiss it, but there really isn't much of a progression of story. He continues to try to go through what he does. He gets married to her, has kids, continues to be an asshole. She ends up, getting into it. He gets unbelievably jealous of her and anyone that she gets in touch with. He gets involved with the mob. Right.
His whole life just falls apart.
Yeah, but he's also the Italian guy, right? So this is another thing. This is about Italians in Italy as well, in New York as well, right? Mm-hmm. The mob, when you're an Italian guy boxer in the Bronx, the mob is going to ask you to take a dive.
Right. It's coming along. Right. Exactly.
Right. And it's so clear. And when they do it in the movie, it's so great because it's so clear that he took a dive.
Especially in comparison to any of the other fights you see where he is just taking.
Right.
Yeah. And which is why they essentially they have this confluence of events where he's up against, what's his name? Sugar Ray. Right. And he's like, you never knock me down. Right. Like when the last fight I think it's the last fight in the movie. It's
his very last fight.
And he just stands there and takes such a fucking beating. And he's still standing and standing and standing. And the commenters are like, this is insane. No one should go through this. And you're just getting,
and the blood is flying everywhere.
Blood is everywhere. And he's standing. And it's the only thing that he, after he threw the previous fight, he's like, I'm going to show you I can take it. Right.
Right.
And that's the only thing that he just needs to salvage his ego in this way. And that's the thing that's been driving him the whole time. He's just like, I need to overcome my own self-hatred and prove that I can do something. And that's what's destroying your fucking life and your body. You can't let go at all. You can't stop trying to prove yourself, Martin Scorsese.
Right.
Fucking ODing on cocaine, And that's why why Scorsese wanted and needed to do this movie.
I think he did it very reluctantly. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until he got into it that he realized its importance or whatever.
Yeah.
But, that's his thing. I think what he did is he found his calling, right? His calling is to play those specific groups of people, those specific.
Well, it's his childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's dealing with Scorsese is dealing with his inner turmoil publicly as art. This is what he does. And now I'm not a believer in that. You don't, to me, you don't have to suffer to make great art. But if you are a suffering person, art's a great way to try to deal with that. And that's what he did. And that's why so many of his movies are trying to unravel these intractable problems that he sees himself suffering. Jake LaMotta is a voice for him, even when, and I've talked about it before, but Last Temptation of Christ is about how difficult it is to really grapple with things you believe and feel and make art out of them. That's why in the beginning, Christ is doesn't want anything to do with God. God keeps on insinuating himself in his mind and driving Christ crazy and giving him these visions of things he must do. Like that's art to Scorsese.
Right.
And that's why he has been a great artist throughout all of his life, is he's constantly wrestling with this stuff. And this is the one where he went head on. Like he's in the ring with the movie itself. That's what he's representing.
Mm.
But again, not fun.
No.
Not
His
fun, not a likable guy.
Considering how much he's an asshole to everyone, and then if he suspects
he's
anyone
misunderstood. He's not an asshole.
No, he's an asshole.
He's an asshole.
Hideous.
And the way that the jealousy that he has for his wife, which is completely unfounded considering how poorly he acts.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable.
Well, because he hates himself, right? He can't believe that she would love him, really, right? And that's where his suspicion comes from, to the point where he suspects Joe Pesci, right? Like who already tried to date her before, and she was like, "Fuck off," which is what he says in the beginning of the movie. Like, there's no reason to even ever suspect Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci is the one who's been truthful with him the whole fucking time and would never betray his brother.
It was such a great scene because he basically is like, "Did you ever fuck her?" Yeah. And it's like, why would you even ask me that question? You never answered the question. Answer the question. Yeah. And it's like, that's a ridiculous question. I'm not answering it. It's like, you're still refusing to answer the question. And it keeps on and on and on. And Pesci's just so pissed off at him. Still doesn't answer the question.
Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Yeah. And because it's a redo, it's the most intense redo of the hit me. I want you to punch me. Like that's what he wants. He wants to be shamed and beaten. That's because he feels he deserves it, right? And so like, this is the person I care about the most, Joe Pesci, and I want him to realize that I am a piece of shit and not worth the time, and I want him to drop me.
Because Schrader wrote this. A lot of this is like Schrader's life was like that. His relationship with his brother in the Midwest growing up.
That makes sense.
And they had that kind of relationship. And they would do I was reading crazy shit, fucking get high and drunk and then drive in your car through Wisconsin or whatever until you ran out of gas really fast. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing tonight. And that's just like there was this rage inside or something. But it's really more on this viewing. I'm like, God, this is Schrader.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what's really weird with Schrader, because I love Schrader's films. I think he's a great director, right? And but Schrader is always looking for absolution in his movies, right? Like one of my favorite movies of the past 20 years is First Reformed with Ethan Hawke that he did, right? And many of his movies, and also Master Gardener was one of his more recent ones, like Master Gardener, yeah, it's really, really beautiful. But these are like these. And this is actually, now that I think about it, it's also true of like hardcore, right? And
I love hardcore.
All these movies where he's like, he has the movie itself is partly a fantasia of like what, like it almost has like a naivete to it as to what pure absolution would be like, you know?
He grew up like a really religious family.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up. He was...
Well, in hardcore, it's what, not Lutheran, but
somewhere from Minnesota or somewhere, and that's what it was. And it was a very, it was not an easy childhood,
right?
And it seems like it just bleeds because apparently, a lot of the scenes that we remember De Niro for, because there was another guy who wrote Raging Bull, in the studio, and everyone didn't like it. They said it was flat. Right. They give it to Schrader. And comes back with all this depth and these scenes, like the steak scene he came up with. All these kind of things with the brother he came up with.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah,
and he took out a lot of the family members.
Yeah,
I think one of the cool, interesting scenes is Pesci channeling his brother's anger for him at the club, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they all have it. That's the best. He's close to the door in that guy's head. I loved it.
Yeah, it's so great.
There's these mobster guys that are just like
so funny,
that are constantly with Vicky. Like when they first spot Vicky, she's hanging out with the mobster guys at the pool, right?
Yeah.
And then they're at the club and they invite Vicky to come to the table and he's immediately jealous of it, right? But then Pesci goes to the club sees the mobster guys, and Vicky is with the mobster guys, and she says, "Go back to your husband." And then the other guy and he's like, "Okay, I'll hang out with you." And then he fucking smacks him in the face with a glass and just starts beating the shit out of him.
So good.
They escort him outside, and he grabs him and shoves his head in the cab and starts slamming the door of the cab on his head. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful violence.
It was
he really made violence beautiful, Scorsese.
It did.
Oh,
what was
incredible.
interesting about it, because what's interesting about it, because we all know Pesci as this crazy
Later,
violent
though.
guy from Goodfellas, right? And from this thing. And then this was like, he's the one that's the voice of reason
Yes,
in
exactly.
the violence of.
But he's protecting his family, though. That's his brother's wife.
Totally right. But it's so violent.
Yeah,
But
because
it
he's
doesn't
more
matter. You'll
violent.
do
Yeah,
anything
because-
for a family.
right, because he's infected by De Niro's violence.
He's infected by De Niro's violence, yes.
And he's so
Well, it's
profoundly.
not violence if it's family.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like he cares so much about De Niro, and De Niro is always suffering hideous rage that, as you pointed out, Chris, like it channels, like it channels into Pesci. Like Pesci would never be doing this except it's his brother's anger, right?
Yeah. Well, it's normalized violence
Right.
towards him.
And like it would
yeah.
never ever act like this except it's De Niro, who's the person he loves most.
And it's funny because De Niro calls him out on it, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "I heard you did this." Like, "Yeah, I did." Beat him in the taxi cab, and De Niro's like, kind of smirks, but you can tell De Niro's like, "That's not like you. Like,
what are you doing? That's out of character.
what are you doing?"
Yeah, I'm the angry one.
and that's my job. I beat people, throw them through windows
Right.
and shit like that. Like, no, you don't do that.
But I mean,
And
I
it's
just love seeing people like Frank Vincent is the guy who's who's also in Goodfellas. He plays Billy Batts and gets fucking
Right.
killed at the bar. Like just
Go
hearing them.
get your
like,
shine box.
Go get your fucking shine box. Like
They don't
the
call me
dialect-
that anymore. I know you've been away, but
it's like it's
hey,
so good.
Tom, was I out of line? And then the best De Niro's like, you were a little out of line.
A little bit.
little
bit. No, it's on the
Drinks
house.
are on the house. On the house.
It's so fucking funny. And like you can see that from the moment like Pesci is walking down the street with Frank Vincent. Like you can see it already. Like the Billy Batts relationship is cooking in Scorsese's mind because like they're just walking. It's just like Frank Vincent's like, "You got to talk to your brother," and it's like, "I'll talk to him." You got to talk to your brother. I'll talk to him.
Hey,
Right?
and what else? Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. It's the baby mouths at the door. Go fuck yourself. Hey Frank, go fuck yourself. It's so good.
That's
But, like,
accurate. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Dialogue and scene work because that's so
Goodfellas.
real.
We haven't done that one yet. But
it's
boy,
incredible.
That one is just.
But it's such a perfect, and especially in Raging Bull. Raging Bull photographically in every way is such. It's
It's an art piece.
It's so absolutely convincing of its environment and everything. You're just like this is like you're in a 1941 Bronx simulator. It's just
like an opera.
perfect. Yeah, it is an opera, absolutely.
Well, I think you're right, Eric. Is the boxing is so theatrical
Yeah.
and the lighting is so theatrical. When they're in the apartment, it doesn't feel like an opera, but the boxing itself.
Yeah. Well, that's when
feels-
that's the heightened, perfect drama of it is in the ring, right?
Right.
And
And the music during the ring. And it's
right.
like, and they also, they do the what's the pan zoom thing, the Hitchcock zoom thing, right?
Oh yeah, the trombone,
Hitchcock zoom.
yeah,
The trombone,
yeah, where you dolly in and pull back, and zoom in and dolly out, that kind of
Dolly
stuff.
back.
Yeah, and so like the because for him, like I'm gonna keep on hitting the same note, but like the ring is cinema, right? And like you're totally right to point it out, Chris. It's just like when you're in the ring, you're in absolute cinema mode, right?
Yeah, everything's black around it except for
it's a void. It's this
the ring itself
like,
and the characters.
in
right?
like the editing style changes, the photography changes, like it is pure movie making in the ring, right? And then when you're outside of the ring, it is ultra realism,
right.
And it's
And I also have to say that if you look at it, it looks like a high-end movie that was shot yesterday.
oh, it's incredible.
Like you can't tell the difference. You could not look at those fighting scenes and tell you what year those were shot.
Yeah, no,
It could have been
it's
shot
flawlessly did. I mean,
Any point in time from 1940s to 2024,
Yeah.
and it would still look that good. There's no date to it.
Yeah.
The rest has a little bit of a date to it,
Yeah.
for sure.
But it is spectacularly constructed and crafted, and like I said, it's just like this is the kind of thing where it's just like this is not meant to be a good time at the movies. You know, like this is meant to be.
That's the thing, right? So we always do the good time at the movies thing. Like we can't.
And movies do that great.
People don't want to see sad movies.
Yeah. Yeah, or hard movies to watch, or watch people that are gross, or any of this stuff. Like, and I understand, like, movies serve a couple of different purposes. Like, you go to see fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. You're not going there because you want to think hard about the reality of how
you
you're
to see Rocket's origin.
You get exactly, dude. This is what it's for, and it's fucking
Whose
fun,
origin
man.
story?
Rocket Raccoon, But like these movies are super fun. They're super beautiful, and that's as high a purpose as anything. Like that is absolutely 100% what it's for. Sure, that's one of the things that movies do well. The other end is Raging Bull, where you're like, I gotta strap myself down. This is for something else. And I'm not here to enjoy myself, feel great, and have a great time. This isn't Rocket Raccoon country. This is something else. And if I go on the ride and think about it, then I'm going to have realizations about myself. Like this is the other thing the movies do incredibly well. And so when you see, like, of my favorite kinds of movies, something like Iron Claw is a little bit of both of these things. Like it's a big, enjoyable, like, drama with great, like, zippy, cool scenes.
It's Raging Bull meets Dazed and Confused.
It's like, yeah, like it's a really big, enjoyable movie, right? That engages you emotionally and makes you feel great and feel sadness and all the big stuff. And
but it doesn't let go. It also keeps you sad.
It also uses a little bit of art, and it also cracks you a little bit.
Would you say
really
it's
nice.
really Raging Bull meets Aaron Brockovich?
Right. Well, you
Imagine
know what I
trying to
actually
pitch
would say?
that?
The kind of movie
pitch that movie? I don't get that. Wait, what?
They're called boobs, Ed. Yeah, but like the kind of movie that Iron Claw is also modeled by Scorsese, which is the same as something like Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
Like it is actually a big, beautiful family drama that uses a lot of artistic skill and a lot of deep thought to both entertain and make you think. And these things are actually, it's what sucks is that kind of thing is actually really rare at the movies these days.
Right.
Like that's the movie for everybody movie, and it's hard to come by those things. But you do things like Raging Bull.
People in chat, let us know if you've seen either of these films. I'm assuming most of you have seen Raging Bull, but I'm wondering if any of you have seen Iron Claw. I'd be curious to know.
But yeah, like it really is like, not Raging Bull is not going to be for everybody, but it is the kind of thing that you can see, as we already talked about. There's a lot of Goodfellas that happens because of the discovery of Raging Bull, like what he figures out. Right,
they're the same characters.
Yeah, right. And Goodfellas is an entertainment more than it is anything else.
Yes,
right.
It's the feel good version.
It's the feel good version. Exactly.
It's the Aaron Brockovich of boxing.
Exactly. Like Goodfellas is fucking hilarious, and like it's less about even empathizing with these characters and then just watching this whole fucking train wreck happen. You're just like, whoa, like Henry Hill. He's insane. Like that's what's fun about the movie, right?
Yeah.
And
him trying to make the pasta with the helicopter.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And so things like Goodfellas sort of have it both ways, as both an art picture and an entertainment picture. And Goodfellas creates an entire kind of movie that you see. And I call these.
Has someone made a Goodfellas cookbook because they need to?
Oh my God! Just that big bowl. I mean, like, especially seeing Goodfellas in the theater, when they cut to that big pot of spaghetti and it's full screen and it's just red, like the whole theater just goes red.
But when they're cutting the garlic,
with a razor blade,
don't cut it too thin. Don't cut it too thin. Yeah, just like
liquefying the pan.
Yeah, liquefying the pan. Yeah. Oh my God.
In the pot.
But like that is a like I think that Goodfellas is a transcendent movie for movies themselves because it actually creates an entire genre of movies. These sort of like cocaine montage movies that
Cocaine montage,
like, that
Meets
can
Aaron Brockovich.
yeah, exactly. And like Boogie Nights is a cocaine montage movie. It's like
Sure.
it's fantastic, you know. And to an extent, there's not much cocaine in Iron Claw, but it has that same kind of structure.
Oh, there's steroids.
There's steroids. The cocaine is steroids, right? And
Well, I'm going to get to Iron Claw, but there was something so impressive and that stood out to me is how subtle they were with the horror that is in this. They were very subtle with horror.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that was the thing that was so shocking. It's like, no, this is all about family. There's horrible things happening.
Yeah.
And you're
Truly.
pretending
that it's
they're
fine.
just a little bit okay.
Yeah.
You know, you're normalizing these things.
You're caught up in the world of Iron Claw. And it's really that's why that movie works so well. It's like from the outside.
Well, it's okay. I also want to say there's fundamental things that make a movie good that people need to start with. And good script, good directing, good acting.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. This has got to cross the board. Yeah, it's got.
I mean, you just do that. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Like, and the thing is, like you have to have. In fact, I would go so far as to like of those three, like you really do like you need great acting, but movies can be great without great acting. Like
yes,
yeah, right.
But just the good writing.
But it all comes down to the screenplay. Like if the screenplay doesn't work, then you don't have the basics for making the movie work, and it's very hard to make a movie with a bad screenplay work. But Iron Claw gets almost all these things running at top speed. It's
I think that's great. Right. So if you start with a good play, you got a good movie. To make a good screenplay even better, you add a great director. To make the director even better, you add great actors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's how you
Maslow's hierarchy of needs of a great film.
That's and then to make the actors look even better, you add a great DP, and then
But it has to be in that order. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
I think DP's higher up than even this.
You think DP is higher up than actors?
I think. Certainly. Like I think that like there's plenty. I mean, first of all, before you guys.
I'm sorry. How many times has it just been guys like the beginning of movies where it's just all silence, like Daniel Plainview, right? And it's just these kind of like the beauty of the cinematography. You totally understand everything about them.
Yep, 100%.
Of course,
100%.
yes. I think it goes actors, cinematographer. Yeah, it's a tough
like
call.
I think it's tight, but I think that you can get. Like you can get a lot of acting out of great photography, right? Like you can have minimal actors.
Just look at any Melanie Griffith film.
She came to mind, but like if you have a beautifully photographed film,
I just watched Body Double.
She's a working girl.
That's right. It's a very good movie. She's good at it. She's very good.
Body Double?
Is she?
She is good. I can name movies in which she is good. Yes, absolutely. And her mother is an excellent actor.
Her mother was, but that's her mother.
And her daughter is an excellent actor.
And Robert De Niro's son's father is a great actor.
That's right. Her daughter is from the remake of Suspiria, and also and she was also in recently Madam Web. She was Madam Web. So, but she's great in Suspiria. Dakota Johnson. And she's great. She's a legitimately excellent actor. Then her mother.
She was in The Grey Thing.
Oh, that's right. She's Don Johnson's. Don Johnson
The Grey Thing.
was her husband.
The thing?
Yes,
Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey. I have not seen them, but I'm sure she's great in them. But yes, but Melanie Griffith's mom is Tippi Hedren, who is fantastic. And The Birds, which is my that's in my top 10 range. And her daughter is also like Melanie Griffith is the bridge.
Just to keep track, guys, that's 123 films that are in Dan's top 10.
There are 20 slots apiece in each step. That's how it goes.
123 films in Dan's top 10 films. And I think
if people are truthful, that is the way, because there's no way that people have actual number one films over in a long term sense. They're not like. That's why I don't rank things. Right.
I rank things. I also rank things in terms of mood, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm in the mood for this.
Yes.
It's hard to be in a mood for Raging Bull.
Right. Like I don't watch Raging Bull a
You're like,
lot.
you know what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
Raging Bull.
Yeah, but like
That is not a Sunday afternoon.
exactly. So like if you imagine like my top 10 system, right, is like it's like when you go to the fair and there's the thing, you hit the hammer and it goes up and rings the bell, and how high you knock the thing up is how strong you are. Like Raging Bull rings the bell. That doesn't mean that I'm like, I gotta go watch Raging Bull. I gotta go to the fair.
You gotta really lift the hammer to see Raging Bull.
Yeah,
you gotta really
your book, Dan.
Exactly.
Not every day is the fair.
Not every day is the fair. But
My
but
ventures in cinema.
yeah, but like that's the thing. And then and also I was gonna bring it up before you guys bring it up and then hopped on me for it. Might as well hop on me now. Titanic is a perfect example of this because the acting in Titanic is, let's say, the acting in Titanic. It is still one of my favorite films, and the acting is debatable. There you go. Everything else is top notch, and everything it doesn't need. In fact, I think that Titanic would be hindered by great acting. And so, yes, I agree with you, Eric. Acting is less important than cinematography, and certainly less important than screenplay. And
It helps.
Yep, it helps. It helps. Except in Titanic, where it would have fucked it up.
Yeah. But yeah, it starts off with Jake LaMotta in his dressing room trying to recite Shakespeare for his thing, and it ends with him saying, I could have been a contender.
Give me a stage where this bull here can rage.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I could have been somebody.
That's entertainment.
That's
Been a
entertainment.
contender.
And which is funny because he lands on that line. That's exactly what we're talking about. Because like what we're watching isn't entertainment. What we're watching is hard. And here's
That's entertainment.
yeah, exactly. I like the saddest thing in Raging Bull to me.
It's so sad to see him in that MC role.
It's so fucking. It's like it's not just like sad. It's like just stop showing me this. I feel like I want to. I just feel like I want to die.
This is a popular thing, right? So back then it wasn't so popular, but now like to feel awkward, right?
Yeah. Oh,
the
man.
awkwardness when he spills the drink on the wife at the thing. It's like, oh, sorry about that. We'll go around the drinks. So yeah.
I just want to see what a microphone sounded like on a sexy girl. And you're just like, oh Jesus, Jesus, please stop showing me anything else. Like, but when he is like, he introduces the stripper and he's just like, oh no, you all fans of her, here she is. And this woman comes out and this woman is like, I don't know, she's older. Like she's not like in stripper shape. And so she's like, dun, 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 dun. It starts like taking off and you're just like, just cut out of here. And they do. And it shows he's walking to a cab with her and he's like, oh, so he's going to fuck the stripper. That's great. And then it becomes clear the stripper is his wife. And you're like, this is the saddest thing I have ever seen in my life. like you're just like you're willing to stand there while your wife strips at a shitty club. Mm-hmm. You're just like, what the fuck is going on? It's just endless moments like this where you're just like, Jake.
Oh, and it's a super shitty club.
It's a hallway club.
It's basically in like Hell's Kitchen, but it's the Bronx.
It's the worst.
It looks like something like
people who grew up if you've been to anywhere in the combat zone in the 80s in Boston, you've been to a place like this.
Combat zone.
It feels it had a feeling that's another Scorsese film, a little bit like The King of Comedy with him at the bar, thing at the end.
Oh,
like
God,
a little
dude.
bit of like ooh.
Yeah, it's so like it's like he actually successfully turns that feeling into comedy for After Hours. Like 90 minutes of that feeling only funny is After Hours.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Like, I'm going to take all of that. Yeah.
But man, oh man, Raging Bull, it's ugly. And like that, like even in the end, because what's like the saddest moments in the movie and the actual real
it's not a happy ending. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, not a happy ending. And like there's also to the crossover to Boogie Nights. The ending shot of Boogie Nights when Dirk Diggler, you finally see his weenie and he stands up and he's right. It's the exact shot from Raging Bull where he is in the mirror and he's just like, okay, get him champ. And then he stands up and you only see his fists, right? And he goes, like he's like doing a rabbit punch, like
Shadowboxing.
and he's shadowboxing, right? And he's like
Judo thing.
and then he steps out of frame. He's not even in the mirror, and you hear it go and it cuts to black, and you're like,
Right.
so that's the rest of your life. Like it's the bleakest possible ending, and that bookends the opening shot, which is one of the most beautiful opening shots of all time, where you see him shadowboxing in the ring. You see the ropes are crossing the screen perfectly, straight
Breaking
across
the line. Yep.
right, and he is bouncing in slow motion up and down behind these ropes, and he looks like a musical note on a music staff. And they're playing this beautiful, beautiful classical music. And for a moment, you can see all the promise and beauty of his skill and all the art and wondrousness and all this stuff. And then
they do a similar thing.
They set up the tragedy. You already know it's
in the Iron Claw when he's getting angry and he's bouncing back and forth.
That's
between the
my
ropes.
favorite shot. I was going to bring it up. That is my favorite shot in the movie. Favorite shot in Iron Claw right there. Bury the lead. That is the
So
absolute
good.
best one. Like that's the movie. The movie in a single shot. Like
It's so good.
yeah, it's flawless. Like anytime a movie does that, where you're just like, how can we tell the movie in one image?
His anger, his frustration,
Yeah.
his trap.
Yeah.
He's trapped.
Perfect. When a movie can pull that off, then you know what you're doing. Then you understand your story.
And boy, is he a good actor in that movie.
Yeah,
He's really
Zac
great.
Efron, man. He is turned around. He's no longer High School Musical. He is a really talented man, and he absolutely commits to the bit in this thing. And like, I think that for a movie,
I was
like,
shocked.
Yeah.
On the level, I really was.
Yeah,
I
he's
just
terrific.
couldn't believe how great of an actor he was.
And the thing is, like, normally in a movie like this, when you're trying to showcase how good, like, because in one way, you could cynically say, like, this is a movie to show off what a good actor he is,
They don't set it up like that.
But when you start watching the movie, they're not doing that, right? Yeah. And like they surround him with great actors, people, Maura Tierney, Holt McElhaney, people like that. If he weren't doing a good job, you're still going to get a good movie out of this because the supporting cast is like all A pluses. Like you got a stacked supporting cast in case Efron doesn't pull it off. But what you end up with is Zac Efron is better than even his great supporting cast. And it's really shocking, where you're just like, that's a turnaround moment. Like, I hope he follows this path. Follows this path. Because there are actors who have delivered, like, for instance, when like Jim Carrey's 1-2 punch of Truman Show and what do you call it?
The Mask.
The Mask.
The one in Long Island.
The one with Kate Winslet. God, I can't believe it's one of the great films.
Unbearable to speak.
It's embarrassing. I can't remember the name.
Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine is
Eternal Sunshine is Spotless Mind.
Jim Carrey is so perfect in these movies that it's a tragedy to me that he did not continue in that vein. I was like, stop with the fucking Mr. Popper's Penguins. Like, you've proven yourself.
I think he's having fun.
I mean, absolutely.
Painting.
Yeah. And like, he doesn't know anything to me. I'm just saying from my end, like,
I think he's having fun, and then he's doing those other films just to show you, by the way, I can fucking act.
He can totally, yeah. I mean, like the guy who's doing it. I mean, like, again, like I don't feel like Jim Carrey owes me nothing. He can do whatever he wants, and if he's enjoying himself, he's making the right choices. That said,
he's not even acting anymore.
He's not even acting anymore, really.
He's a painter.
He's painting, yeah, and
he's anti-Trump painting.
Yes, it's true. He's a very fascinating philosophical guy now, and I'm very much pro Jim Carrey in that way. But like the guy who is the last person to pull this off and to follow through is Adam Sandler.
Yes,
like Adam Sandler is terrific. He is like
love.
Yeah, he is built the right empire around himself.
What's the other one that I'm thinking of that he did
with the gambling?
Wes Anderson.
Oh yeah,
no, what
game?
Not Wes Anderson.
The
Paul,
something time.
No, maybe
Diamonds,
something time.
The diamond one.
I'm thinking, what's the one he did, which is Paul F. Not Paul.
Punch Drunk Love.
Punch Drunk Love.
Punch
Thank
Drunk
you.
Love.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah.
That like because that you've Uncut Gems, Punch
Uncut,
Drunk
yes.
Love, Uncut Gems is terrific. And even if it did I did a movie that nobody liked that I actually liked a lot called Spaceman, which came out recently on Netflix. It's a little too slow and it doesn't really work, but it's an interesting movie and he's really, really great in it. Like he's just a legitimate actor now. Like that's just how it is. And then on the opposite end of the scale, he makes and produces fucking things like these shitty David Spade straight to Netflix movies. Just
Making a ton of money on that shit.
and he's just making a ton of money, and everyone they're just like, hey, everyone go to I'm gonna hire my buddy Dave Spade. Let me get him $5 million. Send all my friends to Hawaii. We're gonna make $100 million, and then we can just go do whatever we want. I'm just like, that's a responsible man. He's doing it correctly. I really appreciate that. So I hope that Zac Efron uses this as a way to say like, okay, what do I want to do artistically with my life?
Yeah, well, he certainly put himself physically through the ringer to make this movie, which is crazy. Let's set it up. The story is based also on a true story. It's a story of a wrestler in the 50s or 60s?
It's like 70s. Yeah, late 70s.
Late
79.
70s. It starts off in the 70s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, it starts off in the 60s with the father, but it quickly migrates to
when it's
78.
starting, the main story is the late 70s and 80s.
Right. But so the father starts out late 60s, early 70s, something like that, where it's shot in black and white on the ring, and he's a wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, for most people know this, but it's not necessarily. Wrestling is fake.
Yes.
What?
It's not real. Okay. Professional wrestling is fake.
Everyone in chat leaves.
Okay. The thing that's interesting about this film is they approach its fakeness in a very subtle and almost dismissive way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they explained it very well early on when his girlfriend said like, it's fake, right? And he's like, think about it this way, like winning a title is like getting promoted in the company. Right. And so it's really about how the audience responds to your part of the act. Right. Like it basically saying it is all fake, but we are putting on a show, and the better we do on the show. Yeah. Like this is live constructed. So like, we don't really know what's going to happen. We're judging it as we go. There are stories that we go into the ring that we want to tell, but things may change. And it's all about how much you get the audience revved up and buying into what you're doing.
Absolutely. But to put it in context, the family, specifically the dad, treats wrestling the way he talks about it. It's like it's real. It's like it's real. Right. Even though everyone knows, including him, that it's not.
Yeah.
But he takes the acting of it as seriously as anything else that they do. In fact, they talk about that, like how you are at the microphone is almost as important.
Good work on the mic.
As,
because what it really is a circus.
It's a circus.
Yeah. Like this is
it is a circus, and he's not proud of it. And you eventually get the understanding of his prior skills, that he was a clarinetist and classically trained, that it's almost like he commits to what could have been just a mistake in his life. She was a painter and she gave it up, didn't talk about it. He was a clarinetist. And to go from that to be in a circus is something you are not proud of. Or at least you sense that he's not.
But he is 100% committed.
No, he's committed to it. Because once you make that jump, just trust me. And he says 100%. It with the car. Why'd you buy this car? It's like, I'm going to get you everything. So I've already done it. I've committed. Just roll with it.
Right. And like I could say like, there's a whole movie.
And Pesci's the same way with his family in Raging Bull. It's my family. That's all I can do.
There's an entire movie that's happening here, aside from Zac Efron, that is Holt McElhaney and Maura Tierney. Like, like their relationship and their marriage and how he is,
how they handle each other and their families.
Yeah. Like this is a core element.
She puts his faith, her faith, and he puts his faith.
Right. And and like the way that they play that story is so beautifully played and tracked in the film, because they don't let that part overwhelm the prime story, which is Zac Efron and his brothers, right? But they pay so much core attention to those parents that
Right.
one of the most that the follow through on that is actually sort of the big emotional payoff for the movie is a movie, and it's the other movie in a single shot moment, which is when she has not cooked him dinner in the end.
Oh, that's a
great.
beautiful shot. Yeah.
I'm just like, she's painting, and he's like, "What's for dinner?" And she's like, "I don't know, I'm not hungry." So, and she just keeps on painting, and you're like, "You are defeated."
Yeah.
Yeah. You have been defeated,
Well, there's yeah.
I might have
Yeah.
missed this, but at the very end, was he crying because his father's dead?
No,
Okay.
he's crying because he doesn't have any brothers anymore.
I know, but I thought like the boy said something like it's okay to cry, but maybe like his father had died.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's just like he's looking at his two kids running around
Like
having
his
beautiful-
brothers.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
realizing I don't have brothers anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very, very sad.
Yeah, this
We'll
is
get
what I
to
lost.
we'll explain why he doesn't have any brothers once
Mhm.
we go through the film. But his father, the dad is a wrestler. He's still wrestling. He has two little kids. He's trying to make a career of being a wrestler. They live in a trailer, and that's how this career starts. And then fast forward to later, they live in a house, and the boys are now starting to wrestle. They're older, they're grown, and they live in a house, and they are wrestling. And the dad is basically wants them all to wrestle. He is designating them and their career. He is one of those extremely strong Texas dads.
Yeah.
Which is very well played, by the way. Having lived in Texas, I will say that. One thing I appreciate about the way that they played everyone that are Texans is they played up. They did not try to make them feel like they're Texans. They did the
they're not
correct thing with their.
caricatures. Yeah.
They're not caricatures.
Right.
They did not have strong Southern accents, which is, by the way, true. There's a lot of people who live in Texas that don't necessarily have that ridiculous twang that everyone thinks they should have.
Yep.
But-
They're not monolithic characters where it's just like, I'm about Jesus and I talk like this and I drink beer in my pickup truck. Like none of that happens.
No.
You know, like especially with the dad, Holt McElhaney. Like
Yeah.
it's such a subtle characterization where you can absolutely believe that what he is doing and all the choices he's making are from the heart.
But he is the thing. Like, I'm the man of the house, and
Yeah.
I make all the decisions for the family.
Right.
And what I say goes.
Right.
So when I say this is what you're going to do in your life, and you're going to be a wrestler for your life,
That's what's going to happen.
That's what you do.
Right. There's a schedule. I'm the one who's making the schedule. These are the things
Right.
I'm choosing who does what, and that's what happens. You know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't do any of this with there's no mocking to it. Like you can see what his thinking is, why he cares about them in the way that he does, and that he actually cares about them. Like he's not a cartoonishly drawn narcissistic dick. Like
Right.
he genuinely cares about his children. He genuinely loves his wife, and he is just making and committing to a bad mistake that ruins everyone's life.
He never achieves certain things. I don't think he cares about his family. He clearly
It's so
doesn't care
funny.
about his
like
family.
I literally, not joking, when I'm watching this film, I literally was like, "This is Raging Bull meets The Great Santini."
Yeah, it's very Great Santini. Very Great Santini.
Yeah,
Very,
I was like, "This is The Great Santini."
Yeah.
This is like totally his character, and is Duval.
Right. He did. Yeah, absolutely true. He does not like and when I say he cares about his family, is that he does not understand. No, because like if he didn't care about his family, he would just say, "Fuck it, it's all about me." But what he does wrong, is he can't tell the difference between himself and them at all.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And so like
we have to get the belt in this house because I never got
he
it.
still thinks about them as like a family, right? But he thinks about all of his choices as so they do not experience the disappointment and sadness that he has gone through And all together, we are going to experience joy because we all want that. Now, that's wrong, right? It's totally wrong because people have their own lives. But
Right.
he is not doing it because he's vengeful or narcissistic or like mindless or anything like that. He's not a serial killer. Like, he just doesn't know the difference between himself. He's so self-conscious that he can't imagine seeing anyone else's point of view, even his own, even people that he cares about.
Yeah. But his sons,
Santini.
It's great Santini.
his sons are very, very obedient, yes sir, kind of sons, right?
Yep.
Yes sir, we'll do what dad says.
Yep.
Right. He's got 4 sons, and this is very important to sort of go through all of that. So the first one is Zac Efron, who is the oldest of them, although we find out he had an older brother who died when he was 5.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I'm actually the second oldest, right? But he has 3 other brothers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is kind of interesting too. So his second oldest brother is in college and is a champion discus thrower.
Going to
Right.
the Olympics.
Going to the
About
Olympics.
He was
So-
going to go to the 1980 Olympics when Jimmy Carter said, no, we're not going to the Olympics because it's in USSR and we're banning the Olympics. So he never got to go to the Olympics, and everyone is upset about it. And then his other brother, who's played, David, played, by the way, the discus player is played by Jeremy Allen White,
Mhm.
who is in The Bear, right?
A very good actor.
And then the other one, Harris Dickinson, is the third oldest brother, who's also, big, tough. They're all big. They're all big guys, right?
Mhm.
Because they come from that. But then the fourth one is the youngest one, is clearly no interest in actually being a wrestler. He's a musician.
Right. He's sort of a gentle kind of character. He's
Gentle, sweet character.
artistic. Yeah, exactly.
Artistic and musician. And I think, did they imply that his parents think that he's a classic music person, but he actually is in a band?
Yeah, right. They have no clear idea of what he does. Like,
Right.
They just aren't exposed
He's just
to
not
it.
allowed
Probably
to do
gay.
Yeah.
Right?
He's just not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely completely the outside of the family.
Yep.
The fourth one.
Right.
But he's still forced into wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very sad in a lot of ways because it's a violent sport. No
Mhm.
matter how much you fake it.
Even though it's an act, it's a fucking.
Do you think, like, maybe in 10, 15 years, they're going to have like a Billy Elliot story, but the boy's like, I want to be a podcaster. He's like, you want to be a podcaster.
Exactly. Boy,
In a time when the podcasting was big.
I told you stay in
You
radio.
get back and stay and study your books. You're not
You're gonna
becoming a
spin
podcaster.
albums like your dad did.
Well, they're not going to say podcast. They're going to say you're going to want to be a YouTuber. There's a
YouTuber,
lot of
yeah.
kids out there. Their career choice is being a YouTuber,
I wish them luck.
which is, yeah.
It's like saying rock star.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, YouTubers are getting cameos on films.
It's very true. It's a whole different world.
Crazy. And I can't believe the legitimacy of OnlyFans girls.
I
It's
wish I
like-
was an OnlyFans girl. What are you gonna do?
It's unbelievable the money they're making. It's crazy.
Yep. Mm.
Yeah. And then some of them are school teachers and people find out about it.
I know.
I love this.
Some are school teachers. You're right.
That's absolutely correct. And then their careers are destroyed when they're discovered, because everyone obviously has never heard of sex before.
Why?
How could you do that? I mean, obviously, I also look at porn every day, but I will destroy your life because that's not right. Hey, man, whatever. Judge people all as much as you want. Please do.
Yeah. Right. Where was I? So you have these four boys, the mother, the father. Father is telling them what to do. He even tells people right up front, here are all the boys in order of who I prefer and don't prefer.
Yeah, exactly. He's my favorite. Now everyone knows that he's my favorite. And then in order, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, 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 blah. And then, this is the rankings. Rankings can change.
You can move up or down.
So
You can move up or down.
Very healthy thing to say to your kids.
Absolutely crazy. And the kids just go, okay.
I guess I'm number one right now.
Yeah.
And Zac Efron is number one.
Right.
To begin with.
But
what a letdown. What a letdown he is. That movie's really about how Zac
Efron
Efron disappoints him.
He takes on so much, right? He takes on so much, and he's like, and then the dad is after, that opening scene, the dad's yelling at his son. It's like, you're eating too much. Your brother's this, your brother's that, you're not on the bottom of the list.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to his mom who's in the bedroom, and he starts knocking, and she goes, I don't have time right now. I don't have time. He's like, but mom is like, no. And he's like, can you just tell dad that he's being really tough on? So I was like, that's up to them. That's not up to me.
Between each other. Right.
But I'm the mom, but
off.
Nope. I want nothing to do with the dynamics.
I know how this is going to go if I get involved.
Yeah. Yep. And so he can't. So his character, what's his name of his character? Sorry. Kevin.
Les Tygood.
Kevin.
Oh.
His character is basically like just trying so hard to keep everyone there. He loves it. He's the only one that really loves his family.
Who has a healthy expression of a love
unconditionally
for his family. Yes. Like he loves his dad. He wants to respect his dad, but he loves his family more than his dad's desperate ideas.
Right.
Or at least
he will do everything in terms of wrestling. He will do the whole thing.
That's right.
All that.
He wants his dad's love, so he will do things.
Right. He is given a chance to go for the title, right? So they're in a league that's sort of a lesser known.
Yeah, it's not the WWF.
Not the WWF, right?
Yeah.
But he's got a chance at the the heavyweight championship belt or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, I love how they sort of play up the
artificiality of it.
The artificiality of it, because they don't talk about it too much.
Right.
You only see it in a few scenes where before the fight happens,
the
people
see them
that are
planning.
about to get in a fight saying, it's like, okay, now I do this, and then you do that, and then you do it, and then we'll end.
I always thought wrestling was real.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And they basically just do the whole choreography. Right. And you only see it a couple times. Otherwise, when you see the actual fighting, they make it feel like it's real. And it is.
And the thing is, like, as you're doing it, like, you can, like, things may change, or people may cross a line and actually fuck someone up. And
he did.
Like,
right.
it's a very fluid event, right?
Right.
And it's an extremely physical and dangerous event. So, like, what Holt McElhaney is, the dad's whole view is, like, he treats the overall as if it's a sport when actually it's a performance.
It's a performance, right? And so
no different than what he was setting out to do in his life.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
It is a performance.
And so in this fight, this fake fight for the heavyweight, they are essentially, what they outline is, while he's actually fighting, they're testing if he's good enough to actually beat a heavyweight person in terms of his performance, right? And they do this thing where, in wrestling fights, sometimes they get thrown outside the ring because it's extra drama. And he gets thrown outside the ring, and gets thrown on the concrete floor.
Right. It really hurts him. Yeah.
What really hurts him, knocks the wind out of him, right? Which can happen. Have you ever been kicked in the back or in the stomach where he knocks the wind out of you? That's what basically happens. And he can't get up. And the fight is starting to happen. But in the performance, he is supposed to get up and continue to fight.
Make a show of it. Like, all this
struggling
stuff. Right.
But
he's actually struggling.
He's actually really hurt.
Yeah.
And he goes through it. They did the whole performance, and he loses the fight in the thing, but says, I will have my revenge. And he gets himself tries to get onto the mic to do his whole speech about whatever, about him, I'll get you next time.
Right.
And he can't do it because he's still
hell, Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because he's out of breath. And so his brother comes on and says, "You are a disrespect to my family. My brother's going to come get you." And he basically takes over the mic for him to try to salvage the
his brother puts on a
performance.
better show.
And the
Right?
father recognizes that.
The father recognizes it and is disappointed because he says, you lost the fight and therefore you're not going to actually be promoted
Right.
to the heavyweight because you were too slow to get up and your brother essentially saved your ass.
Right.
And so now he's my new favorite.
Right. And that's it. That's the rankings. And it's really interesting because like you have that scene encapsulates the idea of like he is actually suffering and his father can only think about what it looks like. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's the movie.
Father doesn't care. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he is only worried about how this is perceived. Like you were long in getting up. Like
Right.
I was fucked up, Dad.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't
It's
matter.
really,
You have to do what
really
you
sad.
have to do what looks best is basically his whole value judgment. It's
Yep.
not how you feel, it's how you look.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to think about stuff.
So that happened. And then they start tag teaming because that's another thing you do in wrestling too.
Mhm.
Right. And then the brother who was the discus player, they tell him, "Okay, you're now a wrestler."
Well, yeah, because first because he comes back from the Olympics because
Not the Olympics.
Yeah,
He comes back from not doing
He
the
comes
Olympics.
from he's ramping up to do the Olympics, but because we're in the Cold War, Carter steps in to say we're not going to the Olympics this year. It fucks up Jeremy Allen White's entire idea. He comes back,
Which pushes the whole "my family is cursed" theory.
Very important to bring
Yes,
up.
there's
the
an
family
important
is
part of this.
cursed. The
The
name
family
is cursed. Right.
They believe the family is cursed.
Yes, and the movie really starts playing that out because it's one of these things. The movie is actually great because there's a lot of tough needles to thread in this movie in terms of making it work. One is that it's about wrestling, which is ridiculous. Like it's intrinsically silly, right?
Yes.
And to have this this very dramatic, very real story happening in the world of wrestling is a tricky proposition, right?
Yes.
And if you don't do it right, it's going to look silly, right? And then the sequence of events, which are true, is so dramatic that if they get it wrong, it's going to be Dewey Cox. Like you're just going to be like, I can't believe this is happening. Like this
isn't real.
This can't be real.
It actually did happen.
But this is real. But even with the fact that it is real, if you fuck up handling it, real isn't going to save you. Like you have to make a movie that works.
And you see that in how they all die.
Yeah. And so once the bad luck starts to happen, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Is this real? Yes, it's real. But it's affecting, which is the movie's job.
Yeah. So David, the third kid, he starts to rise up the ranks. The dad is very proud of him. They're like, you'll be number one. You'll be number one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so they get him ready to go to Japan and get to the number one.
And he is working his ass off.
He's working his ass off and taking a lot of steroids.
Yep.
To beef up.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God.
It's unbelievable.
So,
and it's really sad to see this, right?
And at the same time, you have getting married and all this other big things are happening, right?
That was a really great thing. So Zac Efron's character meets this girl, right? She's really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And I love their love for each other. You think it's going to go poorly, but it's very genuine. And and in the end of the movie, they tell you they've been married for 40 years and they've been, but she's very sweet and she's very nice and she sort of learns about him and she loves the family, right? It's a very Texas thing because it's true. If you walk into that family and you look at them, there is unbelievable respect for each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not like hatred or yelling or screaming. It's not Raging Bull where they're all yelling and screaming at each other, right?
Do you fuck my wife? Do you fuck my wife?
Yeah. So they're all being very nice and respectful to each other. And she says, I love your family, right? But also, he is so sheltered in this world of wrestling, etc. He has no exposure to actually being with
anyone outside the family, with a woman or anything. Yeah, it's just
I thought it was that was a weird, funny scene. It was like they're so crowded in this house with all the stuff they're doing that the one guy is trying to have a shower and jerk off, but he can't even do that.
Damn it! Yeah, it's so funny. It's so good. Oh God, big shit. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, but she is very sweet with him, respects him, and so they at one point she's engaging with him and so wants to have sex with him, and she finds out that he's still a virgin, and he's like clearly like, what?
Yeah.
And she goes, you're so sweet. Like she realizes like, wow, that's how innocent he is, even though you would think someone like that, he's so freaking buff in this, and you're like, I'm a virgin.
No, it's ridiculous. The dude, I mean, like he is so like, even just like, you'll see scenes where he's just lying down and relaxed, and his skin is vibrating.
His opening scene, he's laying in bed and all you see is just shiny muscles.
Yes, cords undulating underneath. You're just like, how is that even real? Is that CG? No, it's...
Yeah, and when he's running outside, it's like, Jesus, that's like just a giant machine.
Yeah. If he came down after that, okay.
All the actors who pretended to us were in great shape.
Yeah. No, he is like built like he looks...
Not the fourth brother. He was just a little oafy, right?
Yeah, right.
But he was, Chris Farley.
Yeah, exactly. I'm down by the river. But yeah, the brother who's in the lead is going to be going to Japan. And he's getting married. They have a wedding. Right.
The oldest brother is getting married.
Mm-hmm.
The David is going to Japan. He sees David stressed out in the bathroom throwing up blood.
Bad sign.
Bad sign. And he's like, I think you should see a doctor. And goes, no, I'm not seeing a doctor. I'll be fine. I'm going to Japan next week.
High altitude, fly for many hours.
It's a great idea.
I'll just
going to work out
when I get back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
spoiler alert.
So he goes to Japan and he dies of intestinal bleeding in Japan in the hotel room.
Yep. And that's that. And
that's the end of that.
Right.
And so everyone's like shocked and like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happened. But why did he do it? Because he was pushed so freaking hard by his dad to bring home the belt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right.
And the dad's reaction is basically, I mean, like at the funeral, basically, is to say like, okay, so here's how we recover from this. And get that belt.
Okay, we got one brother down. It's two brothers down.
It's like, no, this is like
5-yard line.
So what, you ran into the flaming barrel. Do we get 2 other lives?
He's
we can
dead,
still beat Donkey
but you got
Kong.
a couple more.
Exactly.
We have more space in the car when we drive. Think about that. That's the plus
son that they've lost, right? Because
life number 2.
That was another beautiful scene, by the way, when he's sort of met the girl for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had their first date together. And they're like, oh, so she says, you've got older brother syndrome where you just care about everyone in the family and you're trying to take care of everyone. And he goes, well, technically, I had another brother. He died when I was 5. So I'm the second oldest brother. And she's like, wait, what?
Yep.
And he's like, well, he died when I was 5. And it goes through this whole thing. And then she's like, that's so sad. And she comes over and gives him a hug. He never had that.
Yep. That's right.
Right? She gives him a hug. And it's like to allow him to be sad. He never had that opportunity to be sad.
Right.
He was told by his dad, you don't cry, boys don't cry. Like when they go to the funeral for David.
I don't want to see any tears.
It's like, take off those sunglasses. I don't want to see any tears. Don't hide behind that. Right?
Parents.
Yeah. When like, it's such a, and like, this is it, like, because I am confused by this myself. Like it used to be thought of as masculine to be able to cry when it's appropriate to cry. Like it became a weird defensive position at some point that this was not manly, and that's foolish. Like that's just damaging. Like trying to not process grief is idiotic. Like that's being self-conscious. And like that's not masculine in the slightest, you know. And Holt McElhaney has fallen into this self-conscious vision of masculinity,
That's a very
which
Texas
destroys you. It's not real and very, very poisonous. But to the movie's credit, it also doesn't treat Holt McElhaney as if he is the source of all the villainy. He is just another victim of this thing, because like when it's revealed that he was an artist himself, like he didn't repress himself. Like he had a dad who repressed him and passed that on.
Well, he said there was no money in music.
Yeah. Right.
So I went to sports.
Right.
And
So
then I got kicked out of football.
Right.
So wrestling was my only choice.
And I love because he says, like, you know, I had to make a choice. There was no money in music. And, you know, when I became successful at this, I was proven right. Like art is the wrong path for everyone now. Right. And the thing is, like, that's not a choice you make of your own free will raised by good parents. Like that's a choice you make when you are told that what you love is bad.
Like, I know, but that's the interesting thing. Like the first dialogue we have of him, he's cherishing a Cadillac, which he leveraged everything on, like the true art form.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I'm just celebrating.
But
Eric's right. It's a combination of these things. Like he's doing it.
I see what you're saying.
And like there is an artist
real
inside.
Dialogue, and he's like, look at this. It's an artwork. It's like this, and she's like, we can't afford.
There is an artist in him who was murdered, probably by his father.
Yes.
Like this shit gets passed down. Like this isn't created by a single guy. Like Holt McElhaney doesn't walk in and just like, I am Darth Vader and now I'm like the family suffer. Like he's just like, I am another victim of exactly this process and I will make you go through the same suffering. You know, and because it has enough sympathy for him in that, it makes it a legit movie instead of simply blaming him. Like he's a person with feelings that I can understand. And that's what legitimizes the whole thing.
Do you really think he's legit and like him because you respect and love the wife, and how if she was married that long, he must have something that you haven't seen yet?
Because you see glimpses that beyond, like he is convinced himself that he's expressing love properly. Like he is interested in expressing love to his children. It's just that he doesn't know what the rules of that are, and he can't get beyond his own self-hatred.
Yeah.
You know? And the thing is, there's two kinds of narcissism. There's narcissism that you're chemically born with, which, you know, is a problem of itself, right? And then there's narcissism caused by insane self-consciousness, which is usually driven into you by other people, right? And how you're raised. And when you become so isolated and you imagine that everyone is looking at you all the time, that's the kind of person who can become the most cruel, because everything you do is because of how you appear. And when you learn to express your entire worldview through this, when you have kids and whatever else, like the way you express love is through appearance. Like, the family must appear proper, otherwise you will suffer. And I don't want you to suffer because I love you, so you will act in this certain way. That's how you fuck kids up.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, it's all a beautifully written script and a beautiful performance by Holt McElhaney. Like it's a very fully realized performance instead of just villainy. And I think that's a core element of why that works.
Yeah.
And she's very good too. Moratini is very, very good.
Yeah, agreed.
Remember the story I told you about her when I ran into her outside the...
Is this with Remy?
With Remy, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. The best. No, I know who you are.
I was outside the firehouse. I'll tell this story. A lot of people have heard it on Martin Joe. I'll tell anyway. But I was outside the firehouse with Remy. And Remy's very, very French. Houdini artist at the time, and he was
French people would think,
he was smoking a cigarette like most French men do. And it was late at night, and she walks by with her boyfriend or whoever she was with, and she asks for a cigarette because he sees Remy smoking, and he's like, oh no, I know who you are. You are on ER. She goes, no, that's not me. He's like, yes, it is. I know you.
I know it's you.
Yes, I've been watching ER.
Oh my god, we mean this with entire love for Remy, who's fucking amazing and hilarious, and leans into his Frenchness very, very deeply.
God, it's so funny.
Yes.
You
So
are
good.
on ER.
Yes.
I was like, nope, that's not me.
Spectacular.
She refused to acknowledge it, and then whoever she was with was just laughing so hard because Remy was just being hilarious.
Yeah, he's hysterical. He's an incredibly funny man. Maura Tierney. But yeah, she is a killer in this movie. Like people forget what a great actor she is, and she's so
And
subtle.
she's very much in the background, right?
Yeah.
Which is on purpose. You can tell she's practically in the shadows.
She
on
is working
almost every
hard
shot.
all the time and doesn't draw attention to herself.
Right.
Yeah, so
She cooks
absolutely,
like-
absolutely pro.
1 million calories for every breakfast.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, it's hysterical.
You see those breakfasts? It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a Texas breakfast.
Yeah,
for you.
boy, oh boy. Well, I mean, if you have wrestlers for a family, I suppose you'd go through a lot of eggs.
And
And steak and everything
6
else.
pounds of bacon and an entire 24 biscuits,
Yeah.
and it's insane.
You got to eat more. You don't eat enough.
Yeah. And they eat burgers on the way back from like before dinner.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so
It's
funny.
nuts.
Yeah. They eat a ton in this
Even
film.
with today's health standards, they still eat like that in Texas, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have eaten like
Yeah,
that.
but
in Texas.
but they do it. It's different though, right? Because people have been eating fatty foods forever.
Mhm.
"Quote unquote" health food is bullshit in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, right.
The people have eaten bacon forever. People have eaten all kinds of
Fat is actually
fatty
good. It's
foods
good for you.
forever.
Fat, like
Yeah.
like being
It's
out of shape.
It's
is
a
bad for
matter
you.
of. I think it's just a matter of moderation
Yes.
and or balance.
Yep.
Right.
I saw this
Um,
thing, well, considering that you're talking about health food, I didn't know, but this guy on YouTube, he's a doctor, and I just hit it, I go down these rabbit holes, but it's like he was saying that like oat milk is bad for you because the covering of the actual oat
Mhm.
is like it does something to your system. It's like not good
Yeah.
for digestive system. So it's not the oat inside; it's the little thing, the little
It's the what-
coating
the
on it.
cover,
So they're pressing that. So they're pressing that in with the milk, and it's really bad, which I never realized. You'd
I
think,
thought you were
oat
going
milk's
to
all
say the
natural.
oatmeal. I thought you were going to say the oatmeal is bad. And I was like, don't tell me that. That's my favorite thing. That's my breakfast every morning.
Well, no, he was saying that the thing on top of the oats is actually
That's bad.
not good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
What about all the things in
I
the
never
food
knew
around
this.
bacon?
As an American, or as an American that lived not in the United States for a big portion of my growing up, that
Mhm.
was the thing that I was always found very entertaining. Is when I would come to the U.S. and would find out, okay, let's see, it's 1983. What's healthy and what's not healthy? Because it's going to be different from last year. And everyone, like whatever article in the New York Times, like, salt, the killer, right? Like
Yeah.
Mhm,
there's
right.
these articles that used to come out that would like literally tell you salt is killing you, right? And you need salt to survive. So you can't
it's all part of
necessarily
it.
not
Yeah,
have salt.
exactly.
And so I think it was all these different and whatever latest toy it is. But yes, there's going to be someone that's going to say, yeah, now this latest food craze is actually killing you, and this latest new food craze is better for you.
Mhm.
So
because people want the.
paleo diets or whatever diets you're going to deal with. It's like
I can tell you from experience that not eating too much and getting outside and walking, this helps.
Yeah.
How many
that
miles
does
do
a
you
like
lot.
my mother would tell me the story. Like it's like in Hungary, like the farmers, before they would go out on the farm in the morning,
Mhm.
they would have a big chunk of bacon fat,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
not the meat, just a fat,
That'll keep you going all
and
day.
then a
all
shot
day.
of brandy
Mhm.
for breakfast.
Yep.
Because
There
the
you go.
brandy would help them digest the fat. They needed the fat for the energy, which is long-term energy,
Yep.
to actually do the farm work.
And then
Right?
the steroids.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
Texas. My son and I went on a road trip and went through Texas. I love Texas, and man, we ate
Great.
pretty great in Texas. There's some good food in Texas.
There is some great food in
Yeah.
Texas.
Man, oh,
really
man.
good food.
Yep, very big.
Houston is actually one of the best gastronomical places in the country.
Fan. I've been to Houston.
Really?
Yet. I've been to
Yeah,
Dallas
it's
and
fantastic. And highly competitive too. Like there's so many good restaurants there that the choices are good. So in order to survive as a restaurant in Houston, you actually have to be really good.
Yeah.
So there's really great food there.
Yeah.
All kinds
I'm
of
a
food,
fan.
right? And so, yeah, and obviously you have great Texas food and Tex-Mex, which is also very special. But you have great Cajun food and you have amazing Vietnamese food because there's a huge Vietnamese population that lives there from the shrimping communities.
Oh yeah.
And you have a great German food because there's a lot of Germans that live there. And so it's just a lot of very interesting food in Texas that's fascinating. Yeah. Fredericksburg, which is just not far from Austin, is like a complete German town. They speak German in Fredericksburg.
That's where a lot. That's how the like a lot of the rock and roll early stuff came from there because of the German Oompa music mixed with the Tijuana music.
The Tijuana music, Tejano music.
So you listen to rock bass lines, doom da, doom dum doom doom doom.
Well, Tejano is German. It is Oompa music,
yes.
Right? That's why they have accordions.
But that's how it's just like it was this mix. That's the German community.
Love it. I love it. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Where were we? So the first brother died from that thing.
I gotta be honest. Pardon me. In this movie though, there were moments where every time like Zac Efron's asleep, he wakes up. I'm like, oh no, he discovers a brother dead. Like I was like, another brother died.
It's going that way. It's going that way.
Yeah, the story is pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
So the next brother, Kerry, who's the ex-Olympian or the failed Olympian, he is up for the heavyweight.
Well, he's given it. They're like, okay, like, and Hope McElhenney like sets him down and says, okay, who's next, right?
Yeah,
and they're like, well,
he makes him flip a coin,
and like they both sort of argue for it. Just well, the only fair thing is to flip a coin, and who's going to take the lead now?
Right,
and then
they give it to Kerry, who's played by Jeremy Allen White, right? And so he's going to do it. And it's amazing because this is what they've always wanted. They've always wanted the belt. And the way that they play it is that they have the mother watching it on a teeny TV with barely the sound going the whole time. And that's how you witness him winning the championship
played as
belt.
the most unimportant thing to the film. It's just like, that happened. So they got the belt. Great. And this is the first of a couple of moments where they do something that is sort of big and mainstreamy and obvious, but they do it in a really subtle, beautiful way that it plays incredibly well, which is the ghost of the kid on the stairs. Where it's just like this is like in any other big mainstream movie, like if you did, like they'd play it big, like here's the ghost of the kid, like whatever, but you just like you're looking at Attorney watching the match. Right. And out of focus behind you just sort of slightly become aware that somebody is on the stairs watching. You look over and you're like, they're out of focus, so you can't tell who they are. And you're like, wait, am I able to see through that person? And then it cuts to Tierney, like she turns and looks, and then it cuts back, and there's nobody there. And like it's such a great, like big idea played small. I was like, right on, because like that's the kind of thing. If they did it, it would have pushed the movie over. There's too many big events in this movie that if you ham fist it, it's not going to work. And they do it very gently, so you still have the impact. Yeah. But they hold back enough that it works.
That other scene really where Zac Efron was when he goes to the attic, they're like, go to the old trunk and get some old stuff. And he's like, Papa, can you hear me? Like, and I was like, it was right out of Yentl. And I was like,
so good. That's when you really know that Streisand's hitting her mark.
Right? Oh, and then it goes ding in the right, next cut.
That's right. And do you see how jacked Streisand was? I barely recognized her.
There was a lot of great moments in that film.
But in any case, so like there's a great song.
I'm mashing up a lot of films tonight, by the way.
Anytime you bust out Yentl, man, I'm ready to go.
He's in his outfit all jacked up. Papa, can you hear me in the ring?
Papa, can you hear me? Mandy Patinkin gets in the ring. Yeah, it's good. But yeah, like this is a great, because the thing is, like I also love in mainstream movies when they, I mean, obviously I say I love Titanic. So playing it big is also fun. But when you have a story that is stacked so high, Jenga style, you're like, wait, how many brothers are going to die? Like if you put too much force into it, it's going to fuck it up. And they gauge it extremely well. And
so he wins the belt, right? He comes home, he's at the house and it's dark, and he's got the belt on the dining room table, and his brother, Zac Efron, shows up, and he's like, I can't believe we've been waiting so long for this thing to be here. And, here it is. And it doesn't mean anything, right? Mm-hmm. And then and then he's been drinking beer, right? He's like, well, I'm going to take off. He's like, be careful. And he's on a motorcycle and he's drinking. He's like, oh God.
Here we go.
Here we go. And he does a shot where he's hit from below as he's on a motorcycle. He's like, I was like, oh, it reminds me of Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. Like,
it was not only that, be careful. I don't want to lose another brother.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Happens. Yeah. Happens. And you're like, okay, so he's going to get hit by a car. You don't see anything.
You'll be all right. No, dude, I've been cut in half real bad.
Yeah. You don't see anything, but you see later he's in bed, and he gets out of bed, and you're like, oh, I guess he's okay. Right. And then you see he gets some crutches. It's like, oh, he's hurt. Yeah, he's hurt. Okay, so he's hurt from the fight or something. Yeah. Okay, so that's fine. Yeah. And then you see him walk into the kitchen. He realized he lost his leg.
Lieutenant Dan. Sorry. That happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Lower, like from his tibia down, not the whole leg, but from his foot, right? Yep. So it's like, okay, so he's lost that.
Right.
And he's crushing pain medications and snorting them.
Right.
Right.
So again, a cocaine montage movie.
Cocaine montage movie.
Right.
Right. So that's not going.
So you can see, like, for those who haven't seen it, you can see where this movie could go wrong, and it may sound like it goes wrong, but they hold on. Like the performances hold it together. The subtlety with which they do it holds it together. Yep. And then the force of McElhaney's sort of insistence that they fucking just keep going. Like there's there's part of it is like you do want to see them succeed at something. And so they don't, they get the belt, but they don't see them get the belt. And you start feeling like, I want to see these guys win in some way. All right.
Right.
And so when the brother loses the foot, it's just like, I want to still wrestle. And he's like trying to he's wearing an artificial leg and all this stuff, and it's causing more and more pain. You're just like, you kind of want him to do it.
The dad is like, well, we need to move on.
Right. They win because they're brothers and they're good to each other.
Right.
Well, they're doing what their dad told them to do.
But they're playing by the rules of their dad. Yeah, exactly. And so the flaw is that they're playing by the flawed rules of their father. Right.
Right.
They're trying to express love to each other in the wrong set of rules. Right.
And they absolutely adore each other. The brothers love each other a lot. Right. And it's just, it's getting worse.
Right.
Right. So Carrie loses his leg. Right. And then dad says, all right, next brother, you're up. You have to be a wrestler. I know you wanted to be a
musician, but it's time to be a wrestler.
Time to be a wrestler. And you can tell they're having him practice and he sucks. He doesn't want to do it.
Now he's he's the skinny brother,
he's not the skinny, but he's definitely not the muscular one.
He's the out of shape skinny brother. And they've bulked him up as much as they can. And now now it's going to be three brothers. And they do this act for a little while, where it's just now they can fight other three sets of guys and whatever it is. Right. And they try and make that work.
And the little brother gets hurt really badly in the shoulder. Mm-hmm. And they have to stop the fight, right? Because he's it
really fucks him up. Yeah, bad. Right.
It fucks him up bad. So they take him to the hospital. Complication happens in the hospital. He gets a super high fever. He gets a super high, even though his shoulder, it should be a routine surgery on his shoulder. He gets super high fever,
which is crazy.
Yeah. 107 fever. It sends him into a coma. Yep. Clearly causes brain damage. Mm-hmm. Can't really talk.
Toxic shock, was it? Sorry,
Toxic shock syndrome.
Is that what it was? I didn't realize you can go 107 and survive.
For 2 hours, they said. His brain was just cooking for 2 hours. Yeah. And so he lives through it and recovers, but he
can't talk very clearly.
He's clearly lost a lot of his capacity. And and they're like, "Oh, and you'll come back." And he's like, "I don't know." If
And
I'll be
he's
able
on the
to."
mic. He's on the mic, and he's like,
come back. His face is in a bowl of
come
food.
back to wrestling at some point.
Yeah,
His spine
it's
don't
hard.
work. He'll come back.
Don't worry. But they're still trying.
They're still trying.
and
so his mother's trying to like talk to him, and he's like, doesn't want to do a thing. And then he is upstairs on his guitar, and he's trying to play his guitar.
He can't even play music.
He can't play his guitar.
Yeah.
That's the one. It's like, I can't even play guitar.
No. And
so, what does he do? Takes a whole bunch of pills and kills himself.
Yep. That's that. So there you go. So, so now you get down to two brothers.
Down to two brothers,
right.
One without a foot.
Right. And the one without a foot really keeps going, right? And
he goes big time.
He goes big time. He joins
WWF.
WWF. Like, so he cuts himself free, and like it becomes like Zac Efron is no longer got his heart in this, and
he's got a family coming.
He's got a family coming.
He leaves.
Yeah. Right.
He leaves the whole sport, and he decides dedicated. He's going to be Mr. Mom, right?
Right.
That was actually really cool at the beginning. His wife said, I love animals. I want to be a vet, and I want to be able to be with a husband that's cool with that. And he said, absolutely. I love that. I'll be that dad. And that's
I'm
what
a virgin,
they are.
but I'll practice.
Yep. Yeah. Right. And so like
that was actually a great intro moment between them. Like when they're
it was beautiful.
The rib state was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great. And so like you like he leaves the business. Jeremy Allen White goes on to go WWF really big time, right? Mm-hmm. And he's really, really practicing hard and all that stuff. And I love the scene.
Zac Efron is completely depressed at this point.
Yes.
He's struggling.
Yeah.
He has kids of his own, and he's doing his best
he doesn't
to
want
raise
he doesn't want to see the baby. Like he's not like whether or not he's going to come home, all this stuff. Like because he's afraid of passing the curse on to the kid.
Right.
And like so names the kid a different name.
The Von Erich curse is what they call it.
Right.
And so he gives him a different last name, which is the Von Erich name. Yeah, it was so weird. Yeah.
Eric Vaughn. No, but you're Von Erich, so it's still going to be the curse.
It's
not.
Totally fine. It's
fine. Really?
Don't worry.
It's the curse. It's the curse. Right. And he's worried. And he basically says, I don't want to be around any of you because if I'm around you, you're going to be cursed just like I am.
Yeah, because I mean, reasonably so, after the other brother dies, he's just like, why has this happened to us? And he's just like, he's absolutely convinced that this is a reality. Like this is like, there is a curse and it is taking us out one by one.
He doesn't sort of want to say that it's all his dad's.
It's his fucking dad. Like the curse is his dad. Exactly.
She finally says at the end, right?
You know, but
yes. So sorry.
Jeremy Allen White comes home for Christmas, right?
Yeah, that's
he is clearly high as hell,
and he's like totally amped up. And it's just, they're like,
he's on droided to hell and just crazy and violent.
And the dad's like, oh, tell me about, the dad's like, so when are you going to be up for the WWF title? You're going to get that belt because your brother's not going to do it because he's a fuck up. And he's saying this like right in front of the,
right in front of him.
Yeah, it's just insane, and I'm going to do it, Dad. I'll get you a present. And he gives his dad a gun, which is just,
his dad had a collection of guns.
Right. Gives his dad a gun. And he's like, fire it now, Dad, fire it now. He's like, I'm going to fire it later. We're going to have Christmas. He's like, fire it now. He starts flipping out. You're like,
right.
That was like Sean Penn in Falcon and the Snowman.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, dude. And so like you can see he's very unstable. Turns out the woman he brought to Christmas at the house, it's just some random woman. It's not like he's involved with anybody.
Right.
And after this, and actually then another one, like, instead of like, I love the way that Holt McElhaney did this. Like, instead of like, freaking out at Jeremy Allen White and being like, "How dare you?" Blah blah blah. Stand up against your father. Like he just tries to chill him out and said, like, let's have a Christmas with the family and let's not be rude to our guests and and mellows it all. I mean, you're just like, there is a good dude in there someplace.
But I thought he was doing it because the girl that he brought in was attractive.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's also
trying
doing.
To impress the girl.
He's doing it because of how it looks. Certainly, that's always his primary motivator. But like, he doesn't give in to his rage, like, which is what is the like his own woundedness. It like doesn't come out. Instead, he's like, I will be a responsible person in this moment. And you're like, this is a complex reaction. It's not a cartoon reaction.
The complex
Right.
family.
Right.
The complex
Oh,
family.
God.
But Jeremy Allen White, obviously Jeremy Allen White, obviously hyper depressed. And also the other scene I love with Jeremy Allen White is when he's practicing wrestling with Zac Efron, and he clearly is in horrible pain, right?
Yeah.
And he's getting knocked down, and he's just like, and he's so fucking mad. And he starts being angry at Zac Efron, just like this is all your fault, right? That this is all falling apart. And Zac Efron's just like, if you want it, then get up, and
Right.
you can see like that's the Holt McElhaney point of view. Just
He's doing it. He's basically taken on on the personality of his dad.
Yeah, where you see this is the real danger of it. It gets into his mind. Like if you want it, if you want it that bad, then prove it and get up. Fight through the pain, get up. Right. Yeah. And normally in any other movie, this would be like a he can do it moment. But instead you're like, stay down.
Oh.
Right.
Down. It's just you don't want to be part of that. You just want to escape.
Well, so then Zac Efron's in bed, right? At home. He gets a phone call from his brother, from Carrie, who's in a hotel room, and he's depressed, very, very, very depressed, and you can tell that he just wants to freaking end it all.
He's alone, essentially, in every way.
Alone, and everything's bad. And he says, "Well, what happened to Tanya or whatever her name was?" Like, who? Right? And it's just like really, really sad. And so I'll come get you. I'll come get you. No, I don't know. It's like, where are you? I'm some hotel in Dallas. Like, no. Go to mom. Go to mom and dad. We'll have breakfast together. We'll do this. We'll do that. And he's trying really hard to talk to him, right? And then so he hangs up. His dad comes back, and then he immediately calls his dad. And his dad's like, "Well, nope, not gonna do anything about it."
Well,
that's
I don't want to get in between you.
You got to solve that with your brother. Yeah,
you solve that with your brother. That's you guys, right?
Like, fucking, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
but the mother said that too, which I never understood.
Yeah. She did. She said that at the
This is
beginning.
the mindset that's fucking beaten into them. This is it.
And so
that's the curse then.
That is the curse. That's it right there.
Yeah. And so he goes to his parents' house to see him. The door's open. He realizes that the gun box is open.
Mm-hmm.
He hears a gunshot outside, runs outside, and finds that his brother killed himself.
Yep. Right then and there.
Right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
His father comes over and he says, "You killed him.
Yeah, this is your fault.
This is your fault." And he goes, "Nah, not my fault. He called you."
Yeah.
You should have taken
you failed him.
I told you to watch.
Yeah, I told you.
I told you to watch him. It's like, no, he called you. It's your fault.
It's your fault. And then, quite reasonably, Zac Efron tries to kill him and strangle him to death.
Right. His dad.
And if that had happened, I would have gone like,
okay,
yeah, I'll allow it.
Yeah. At which point, also, Zac Efron had inherited the quote unquote business from his dad, but he wants to sell the business because they're running out of money. They want to just basically move on.
Wants to get on with his life. Yeah.
Get on with his life. And they're willing to sell it. And then the dad says, you sell for my dead body, right? But he goes through the books, and this is really, I love it how they make it so subtle. He goes through the books and realizes, like, I wasn't paid as much as I made from any of those fights.
His dad's been bullshitting the whole time.
He's been stealing from his sons their money and their winnings the whole time.
Yep.
He's like, I grew the business for the family.
Yep.
I was like, okay.
Fucking
so anyway,
idiot.
he sells the business.
Yeah.
Moves on. And he's lost it. And then so at the very end, he's with his boys and they're playing outside and he's crying, right? Mm-hmm. He's crying because he realized he had 4 brothers and they're all one by dead. One.
Right.
And his 2 boys are like, "Why are you crying, Dad? It's okay." And it's okay to cry, which is another thing.
Right. Which is the thing the movie wants to defeat. The idea, it's like the movie is not anti-masculinity. It's saying there is something wrong with this bullshit vision of self-conscious masculinity. Yeah. Like, you have to root this shit out. This is dumb, right?
And the sons say, "We'll be your brothers."
Right. Like the sons are the example of like, this is how you can actually
I'll
be caring.
Your son.
Right.
What?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Dad.
So sad.
Right. And so it's a beautiful ending. And I want to talk about 2 scenes, which is the scene we brought up earlier, Holt McElhaney and Maura Tierney, the ending with them, where she's lost
Everything.
just
Yeah,
everyone
her
but
whole
Zac
family.
Zac
She's
Efron.
painting.
And it's just, he comes home.
Well, she mentions that she used to paint.
She mentions
to
she
her
used to
youngest,
Scene.
to her youngest son, who's like,
Why didn't you say that?
after he's had the brain damage, he's looking
Right.
at it, like, that's the house I used to live. No one really knows that. I used to love to paint. I
Yeah.
painted that.
Why didn't you tell anybody? I don't know.
Right.
Right. And then in the ending scene, Holcomb McElhenney comes home and sees her painting.
And I love it. It's very Woody Allen, right? Just a doorway. She's not even in frame. You can't see her.
Right.
You just hear her voice.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And he's like,
Where's my dinner?
well, yeah. Like, so what's for? And he's not a douchebag, but he's just so and you're like, okay, how's your day? Well, like blah blah blah. Well, what's for dinner then? And
But what are you doing? I'm
Yeah.
painting.
Oh, okay.
What's for dinner?
What's for dinner? I don't know. I wasn't hungry. And you're just like, what? Like, it's the biggest win in the movie. Like, he's just, I'm just going to disempower you completely. Done.
I'm painting this painting with your balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I just took them away from
like,
you.
and then the look on his face is like, oh, and you can see that he may as well just turn into smoke like Dracula. You're just like,
Yeah.
that's the end of that. Sorry, buddy. You know.
Yeah.
And the other one this is the great triumph of this movie, right? For me, just as artistically, what happens is when Jeremy Allen White dies, he carries Jeremy Allen White onto the table, and he's in the house on
Kitchen
the table.
table.
Kitchen table.
And
yeah.
he's just looking at him, and it cuts to Jeremy Allen White outside.
Amazing.
Love that.
And
walking with two bare feet.
Hops on two bare feet. He's
Yeah.
then in a boat, and he's going down a river. None of this is filmed as if it's unrealistic. It's just like he's in a boat
Continuation.
in Texas. There it is.
Right.
And he's in the boat, and he glides over, and you see there's 3 folks ahead on the shore, and it's the other 2 brothers who have died and a little boy, and gets there, and you're like,
He goes, you must be my youngest brother.
Right.
Or my
And-
oldest brother.
and this in the movie, not only are we in heaven, the movie even has them joke about being in heaven. Like, he's just like the world champion in the afterlife, huh? Like,
Yeah.
and like on paper, if I had read any of this, I would have said, this is not going to work.
Yes.
Like, this is not going to work.
Nope.
But he made it work.
But it
Totally.
works.
And he made it editorially, because when they cut to him walking out and kind of giving a little skip because his bare feet,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and hurting his feet, that was it's all editorial. It worked.
It
totally
was,
worked.
It's
And I
such
love
a
that scene.
gently done, simple version of that concept. It's like, it's a big swing played very small. And I was like,
Well, there's no special
that's how
effects.
you do
There's
it.
no,
Exactly. They don't
it's
try and
just
sell
simple.
it. They don't overwhelm you. They just let it be
Right.
what it is.
There was another one that I thought was amazing is Zac Efron has a fight with, who's the big guy that they fight?
Ric Flair.
Who's the Ric Flair, right?
Ric Flair.
Ric
yeah.
Flair. And he's supposed, there's big dramatic, and he gets so angry at the sport that he does the iron claw, which is the thing where you basically push on someone's head.
Right.
But he does it so violently that he gets disqualified from the
I
thing
know.
and
Right.
loses the thing, the whatever
Right.
it is, which makes this big drama thing, etc. Right? But he clearly did it out of pure anger. You can see it in his face that this is not the act. This is
Yeah,
just
this
him
is
being
rage.
angry,
And he's really hurting this
Rage.
dude. Yeah.
and it's really hurting him. And then he's in the room, and he's like, he should have won it, but he lost it because he lost his temper.
Right.
And his dad is upset at him, and
Right.
he's like sitting there. And then Ric Flair walks in and goes, "Hey man,
That was amazing.
that was awesome.
That was great. I thought it sounded like
It's
you're
like,
soft.
I'll
but then
fight you anytime. Let's
do
do
it.
this again.
Let's go have
He's
a
like,
drink.
You want to go? Let's go get a drink. Well, I'm at the Holiday Inn if you want to hang out.
That-
It was like,
and
it was
you're
like,
just like,
so funny.
What the fuck? It was great. It was great because, like, I mean, in any other movie, it would have been like, you send him to the
These
hospital.
little reminders of how fake it is.
Yeah.
Because you forget when you're watching it. You feel
but
the
you
real
do
emotions.
all of that, and your low life is destroyed over something that's not even real.
Right.
I know.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what it's
That's
so
great.
well done.
I mean, because like he obviously did hurt the dude. Like he's bleeding.
Yeah,
like
he was bleeding his head.
But the guy's just into it. He's just like, fuck yeah, that's what wrestling's all about. You're just like,
Yeah.
okay, man. And also my friend, because Jeremy Allen White is also there, right? And
Right.
with Holt McElhaney, and they've like making him feel like, and Dad's making Zac Efron feel like shit. And the last thing he says he's just like, he says to Jeremy Allen White, "Let's go, son." And you're like, "You fucking asshole." I mean, that's like saying, "You're not my son. This is my son. Bye."
Right.
And you're just like, "Oh, I hate you." Love withholding fucking asshole. Yeah. It's really great. But yeah,
you're
it was
so
like,
far out of ranking, you're not even in a son category.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is my, like, because I always say, like, I love big Hollywood movies with huge swings, and I'm not embarrassed by melodrama. I love, like, you know, like I said, love Titanic, love anything you want to throw at me, as long as it's real emotion. Like, you can represent it as big as you want. But with a movie like this, where it really is important that you play it delicately, that they're like, we're going to take big swings, but big soft swings. I was like,
It's
brilliant. Brilliant.
By the way, this director,
Oh yeah,
not well known.
Not well known. I've seen one other movie by him that I really recommend called Mary Martha May Marlene. Mary Marcy May Marlene. Anyway, it's very, very, very good. It's very good.
Okay.
It was a few years back, and it has I forgot her name. One of the
2011.
Yeah. Marlene.
He did a lot of TV.
Martha Marcy May Marlene.
I'm going to just say that this is great because, you know, no, this isn't a big movie. This wasn't hugely successful at the box office.
Yep.
There was no box office. I think they just went straight to streaming.
Yeah, it was released. Yeah, but it was. I think it did pretty well in its regions, but it didn't make the
promos
news.
on it were horrible.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's see.
You're right. But I don't think a lot of people are going to necessarily see this film, but I don't think people realize how good a film it is. Point being, they still do make great films. It's just they're harder to find.
Yeah, like this is like, okay, so Iron Claw, okay, domestic. What was the budget? Hang on. This is the important thing.
Oh, it's probably nothing.
Okay.
300 million. What?
I know Crafty Apes did a bunch of work for it.
Oh.
Okay, so the budget was 15.9.
Wow.
Right? So that's the right budget for this thing, right? It looks good for 15.9, right? That's great.
2 million just in steroids.
Yep. Because this, if I were to guess, I would say that this is between like 11 and 20, like with people that are in it. And photographed really well. It made 35, which is 5 million over P&A. So it made money, right?
Sure.
And so it is a success. It's a very, very soft success that didn't make any waves. And
that was in theaters, and then it's still got all this licensing stuff that
Right.
has been on Amazon. And
this is the kind of movie that should, I mean, especially when I look back at the, Best Picture 2023. I'm sorry, 2024. Nominees. When I look at the nominees,
Yeah.
Best Picture. Okay, so The Holdovers, American Fiction, Zone of Interest, Barbie, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Poor Things, and Oppenheimer. There's at least 4 movies in here that I would have replaced with this movie.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Minimum 4.
Yeah.
And that it got no airtime at all is
Same
wild.
with Uncut Gems. Think about that.
Yeah.
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 They overlook that.
Yeah. So you got Uncut Gems. You've got so there are films. Well, here you go. This is what we offer at Martini Giant, to find those uncut gems and these Iron Claw.
That's right.
Movies.
Yep.
Right. And yes, I think that there's a lot of things. Raging Bull and Iron Claw are different, but they complement each other in a lot of ways. And I was actually so surprised, like how much these movies come, because we were just kind of going by the titles. I was like, they're both about something in the ring.
Yeah, well, it's like aside from the fact that they're sports movies, they're two different kinds of filmic attack on the same kind of film, right? And so like the
highly recommend this.
Yeah. So like obviously if you haven't seen Raging Bull is much more like Raging Bull is an absolute masterpiece, work of art, one of the best films ever made. No bones about it. But it is not for everybody. It's going to be a smaller audience, and it may not be your cup of tea. That's true.
But it was very popular when it came out.
It would, yeah. I wish we lived in a context.
We don't live in that context anymore, right?
Exactly. That's kind of a drag to me.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and like, you know, in a sense, like the way you get to that kind of context is by supporting movies like Iron Claw, which is much more mainstream and many more people are going to really enjoy it. But it also has a lot of really artful, brilliant stuff in it that is just no longer practiced in mainstream films. Like the things that they pull off in this movie, that they were so subtle and beautifully done and so artfully done, you wouldn't see in your average Hollywood movie for the past 15 years. And so to see that happen makes it easier and easier for people to be exposed to things that are more fringy, like Raging Bull. And Raging Bull is where you, like, because of Raging Bull, Iron Claw happens. Like, this is like, we always talk about the sort of the farm league versus the big league of film. Raging Bull is farm league. Like, that's not going to be for everybody, but you can learn things and discover things in making movies like this that then you can apply to mainstream film that are very successful and very affecting for everybody.
I somewhat agree with you, but I also think the opposite is true.
Oh, it works both ways.
I'm saying is like, Raging Bull was the normal kind of movie that people were making back in 1980.
Yeah, it was.
Well, people appreciated art.
People appreciated arty films more. Yeah. Nowadays, you look at a film like Iron Claw, and you're like, people aren't making films like that.
They're not even making films like that.
They are. Right. They are making it, but they're not mainstream. They're done at a low budget. And by the way, you can do incredible things for $11 million or $15 million.
Absolutely.
Because they don't look cheap. They look beautiful.
This movie should have been a giant mainstream success. There's nothing in it that would keep it from being mainstream success.
Yeah.
Like Raging Bull in no context makes $200 million ever. Yeah. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But like this movie easily could have been in a much higher grosser, could have been a contender in the Oscars. Zac Efron, definitely a contender. Holt McElhenney, definitely a contender for Best Supporting Actor. Like, all those things should have been true. And it wasn't. Like, it was just not the right movie. And I'm like, how do you not fucking drive this one? This one hits all the marks for everyone, literally, even the art film crowd. You know, like that's as big a tent as you can get.
It's not funny. There's no jokes.
There's not enough jokes. Yeah, that's how it is.
I mean, that's the thing, right? It's either a lot of stunts, which there are in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tons.
God, yeah, that bouncing back and forth on the.
Oh, it's great. Talk about that for a second, because that's a brilliant shot.
Yeah, I have to go soon. Sorry, but I will talk about. Yeah, it's basically he's in the ring and he's practicing and he's beating himself up. This is before the Ric Flair fight, where all of his anger is boiling up, and he's basically doing things, wrestling moves over and over again to try to, toughen himself up.
Right.
Where he's just jumping up, falling on his back, jumping up, falling on his back, jumping up, falling on his back.
Yeah. And this is where it becomes very Raging Bull-esque, because you're like, what you're watching is a visual representation of how he treats himself and the trap he's in.
Right, in a trap. And so then you have a shot that's very much like the Raging Bull thing, where instead of him doing this ballet of notes, you see the same bars or the ropes of the ring across the screen horizontally, and the ropes are in focus, and it's a super shallow depth of field, and he's doing the thing where he's running between the ropes back and forth to the other end and bouncing off. That's a wrestling move that's done as well, where you get this speed and you trampoline yourself back and forth, and it's just over and over ago. He just comes into focus for a split second and then out of focus because the ropes stretch to it. Right. It's bam, 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 bam.
It's just him
and
alone
you can tell
in the
he's
ring,
doing it
bouncing
in
back and forth.
Sheer, just like slapping himself in the face or hitting it or asking Joe Pesci to hit him. Right? Yep. It's over and over and over again, and you hear the sound of bam, 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 bam. It's so strong.
Yeah.
So powerful.
It's really, really terrific. And so, like these two movies represent. And
that's a trap, like you said. Yeah. He's trapped in between these two. He can't get out.
He can't get out. Yeah. It's like the rules set by his dad are the ring, and he wants to escape the whole movie. You know? And so when you see the kids playing this giant wide open field, Like, and they're still playing sports, you know, like it's still a sports movie, essentially, even in the very end. But they're free. Like, they are free to fucking run anywhere they want. They're not trapped inside this box.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's just great. But yeah, this definitely represents two poles of artistry, these two movies, that that is what Martini Giant, as you said, is all about.
But they also hit a lot of the family stuff, the elements of family and the commitment to family and
brothers
yeah,
love.
Absolutely.
It's so
two different
many
attacks
things.
on the same thing, and they benefit from each other that they exist.
Yeah,
like this is good. One is the full-on crazy arty one. One's the
Pesci and De Niro live in the end, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I would rather
you just realize, like, you know, he's been trying so hard all of his life to protect his brothers, and they all die.
Yeah.
It's like fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's hideous. It's hideous.
I'm crying right now, man.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. It
really happened.
Film. Yeah, it's really wild. It's really wild. Well, really,
and
really
he lives.
nicely done.
I think he lives in Hawaii now, and all of his families live with him, like the grandkids and everything. They're like, it's a story in the end of it, but it's really beautiful.
And another thing I loved about the movie, and this they could have changed. I'm sure it's not true in real life, also, but like they could have changed the movie to get everyone crying. Is that Holt McElhaney doesn't fucking change at all. Like, he is given the chance to change and he fails. Like, that's
right.
Like, which is much more honest about people with the problems he has. Like, he is not going to suddenly realize that he's been a horrible father. Yeah, he continues to be a horrible father.
No, no, because and that's a very toxic masculinity. It's like admitting you were wrong. You cannot do that, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine if everyone realized, like, oh shit, maybe I was wrong about Trump? That's, you know, I hate to say it that way, but that's going to have the same problem, right?
Right.
Oh, no.
You know, because I think about that. I heard a great documentary on Watergate and Nixon and all this, and I didn't realize that even after, like, it was completely obvious. I mean, after, you know, all the president's men, all that shit happened, like, the Republicans were still like, no, I think it's all fake. And you're just like, the cat is out of the bag. Like, it couldn't be more out of the bag. Like,
right.
Just admit it. Just let go. Like,
right.
You know, like, you have Nixon, like, he is fucking caught red-handed, dude. It's time to let it go. And they still didn't let go, because when you've invested your ego in that,
you have to admit that you've been wrong.
You have to admit it.
And you've been fooled. And that's something that you can't do.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
All right. I got to get going. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this impromptu Tuesday evening. It's late for Eric. Thank you for still being there.
It's not too late.
Yeah, I think it's just not too late. It's 9 o'clock for your time.
But those are great, wonderful films. Definitely recommend.
Well, first of all, I was like, oh, we got to, sorry, from the producer point of view, it was like, we got to squeeze another one in because we're getting loose on things. And I was like, and we figured this one. And then when I finally watched Iron Claw last night, I was like, oh, I can't wait to do this episode because it was such a great film.
Nice surprise, man.
And I did not expect it to be as great as it was. Yeah. And it was like, oh, I heard it's really good. And I was like, I heard it's really good holy crap, this is one of the best films I've seen in a long time.
Really fantastic. Really, really knock out.
So yeah.
Excellent work.
Yeah, and you should watch it if listener.
Yeah, go for it. You won't be sad. Good stuff.
I'll be sad. All right.
You might be sad, but you will be happy.
Sorry, I have to leave. I got to go pick up someone from volleyball.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. Drink.
Talk.
Drink.